Just as Long Chen was fighting the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert, a woman appeared in the air, her colorful robes floating around her, filled with an air of refinement. She had bright eyes and white teeth, shapely eyebrows and cherry lips. She was definitely an extremely beautiful woman, but her lips were a bit thin and raised upwards slightly. On the surface, she looked like a powerful, obstinate woman. Furthermore, she possessed a kind of inherent air of nobility and arrogance. There was a simple but multicolored sword sheathed by her waist. Her powerful aura showed she was a late foundation forging expert. Took them long enough. Long Chen immediately shouted, "Little sister, please help me. I worked so hard for the Grand Xia in order to find this stronghold of the Bloodkill Hall. You should know, to find it, I started following their tracks with all my might over 30 years ago, and all my bitter work has finally borne fruit today. Little sister, quick, capture this shameless thug." The reason Long Chen dared to fight in Grand Xia City was because when he had been drinking with Qi Hao, he had learned many things pertaining to the Grand Xia. He had learned of the Grand Xia's enmity with the Bloodkill Hall at that time, and after all, it was no secret amongst the commoners within the Grand Xia. So despite knowing there would very likely be a soul transformation expert present, he hadn't been afraid. Even if he couldn't beat them, he could run. As long as he reached the large streets, he refused to believe the Grand Xia would ignore him. Now seeing this woman's attire and air, he knew she was definitely from the imperial family. "Who is your little sister?" "I am the Grand Xia's 17th princess, Xia Yuluo." She frowned with a bit of irritation. "That's not important. Little sister princess, quickly stop him. I can't hold on much longer. Is the Grand Xia ancient nation willing to see someone who has made great national contributions die to the Bloodkill Hall's hands? My death won't matter, but what about the justice of the Grand Xia? Wouldn't my death become a stain on the Grand Xia's honor that could never be washed off?" shouted Long Chen as he dodged the Bloodkill Hall expert's attacks. "Fine, I'll handle him first before punishing your rudeness." The 17th princess snorted. She began to form hand seals. An immense pressure suddenly descended, causing countless experts' expressions to change. She's a rank 8 celestial. You must be an outsider. It's well known that the 17th princess is a martial genius, an innate rank 8 celestial who fully awakened by the age of 18. With her cultivation base at the 8th heaven stage of foundation forging, her power is so immense that practically everyone in the Grand Xia knows of it, said a native expert proudly. Just as heaven and earth were rumbling and the void trembled, endless heavenly Tao energy condensed into a sea of runes behind Xia Yuluo. 8 blazing runes appeared, looking like stars. They formed an octagon, slowly revolving behind her. The distant spectators found it hard to breathe under this pressure. Even kings were slowly retreating as they found the pressure unbearable. Heavens, the manifestation of a rank 8 celestial 8 stars illuminate the cosmos. Shocked cries rang out. Although many people had heard the Grand Xia's 17th princess was an innate rank 8 celestial with immense power, they had never personally seen it. Seeing this terrifying manifestation shook them to their cores. "Face your death." Xia Yuluo suddenly drew her sword. A stunning ray of light slashed at the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert. Boom! The Bloodkill Hall expert had no choice but to stop attacking Long Chen. Hastily blocking, he smashed into a large pagoda, and due to its barrier he rebounded and coughed up blood. Damn, how fierce! Long Chen was shocked. This was the power of a rank 8 celestial? It was truly terrifying. Such a powerful attack could practically instantly kill a rank 7 celestial like Han Zhenyu. Damn it! All of you can die. Killing God, protect me. Bloodkill soul condensation. The Bloodkill Hall expert roared, and an image appeared on his forehead. It was a small human figure that was being incinerated. But in that instant, his fluctuating spiritual yuan instantly became calm. Heavens, he's igniting his yuan spirit. Shocked cries rang out. The Bloodkill Hall's experts had 2 specialties, their assassination ability and their fleeing ability. Their ability in both skills was evenly matched. If they failed to kill their target, they would instantly flee 1,000 miles away. The Blood Kill Hall expert had originally had a little bit of hope that he could escape after killing Long Chen. If he abandoned his physical body and used a secret art, he estimated he had a 30% chance of his Yuan spirit getting away. But now he was forced to change plans. He couldn't even think about running. He wanted to eliminate Xia Yuluo and Long Chen right here in order to remove two threats for the Blood Kill Hall. It went without saying that the Blood Kill Hall's assassins were extremely devout to their killing god. Having ignited his Yuan spirit, the Blood Kill Hall expert forcibly stabilized his spiritual Yuan, instantly restoring his combat power. His sword slashed into Xia Yolua's sword, causing a huge explosion. The two of them were both forced back. This exchange had actually ended in a draw, shocking all the nearby soul transformation experts. An innate rank 8 Celestial's name was definitely not fake. Princess is mighty. Raise the Grand Xia's prestige, fill the sky with light, kill the old ghost of the Blood Kill Hall. Long Chen raised Blood Drinker high into the air to cheer for Xia Yuluo. At this time, countless people had gathered. Amongst them were quite a few youngsters who looked at the princess's figure with adoration. Hey, how can you guys not give me face? Do you not know how to cooperate? The princess is fighting as hard as she can to kill the old ghost from the Blood Kill Hall, and as citizens of the Grand Xia, you don't even dare to cheer for her? What are you afraid of? Embarrassing yourself? Losing face? If you're afraid of everything, why do you even cultivate? If you're going to be such worrywarts, how are you even youngsters? What happened to your youthful drive, your hot blood? If you worship her, then shout loudly. If you adore her, then shout even louder. Let me hear your voices. Everyone together, Princess is mighty. Raise the Grand Xia's prestige, fill the sky with light, kill the old ghost of the Blood Kill Hall. Shouted Long Chen. Princess is mighty. Raise the Grand Xia's prestige, fill the sky with light, kill the old ghost of the Blood Kill Hall. Princess is mighty. Raise the Grand Xia's prestige, fill the sky with light, kill the old ghost of the Blood Kill Hall. Princess is mighty. Raise the Grand Xia's prestige, fill the sky with light, kill the old ghost of the Blood Kill Hall. The first time, there were a few hundred people following along. The second time, there were thousands, and the third time, anyone who was even slightly young was shouting as loud as they could. They suddenly realized that cheering with everyone gave them an indescribable pleasure. The youngsters adored the 17th princess, but before this, they hadn't dared to say anything, afraid of being laughed at or mocked by others. They felt like they would be a toad trying to eat swan meat. But under the leadership of a shameless fellow like Long Chen, their throats bulged as they shouted. No one laughed at anyone. Instead, they felt like the more effort they put into shouting, the more manly they were. The cheering grew louder and louder until it practically drowned out the sound of their battle. Within the crowd, Xia Yunchong watched the young cultivators shouting as loudly as they could as if they had been given drugs. He found it almost inconceivable. Even the reserved men of Grand Xia would start shouting in the streets like this? He couldn't believe it. Countless people were drawn over from farther away. The aura of the battle was covered by the formations, making it difficult to spread farther. But this cheering spread far and wide. Even the 17th princess, Xia Yuluo, hadn't thought she would possess such a great skill in rallying supporters. The countless cheers made even her blood heat up a bit. She attacked all out, but the Blood Kill Hall expert had ignited his Yuan spirit and was overdrafting his life. Xia Yuluo was actually being forced back slowly. Hey, are you just going to shout? Hurry up and help. As Long Chen watched the scene from the air, he suddenly received a spiritual message from Xia Yuluo. Me? But I can't beat him. Long Chen was surprised. She was the Grand Xia's princess, and countless experts were watching. Why didn't she ask them for help instead? If they interfere, what about my face? Hurry up. I need you to stall him a bit. He's not letting me unleash any big moves, said Xia Yuluo. How long will it take you to store up energy? I won't be able to stall him for too long. Let me tell you, if you let me die, it'll become an unwashable stain to the Grand Xia, warned Long Chen. Long Chen hadn't expected this princess to be so powerful and obstinate. She actually didn't want other experts interfering in her battle. But Long Chen also didn't want to expose his trump cards. However, without using them, facing a soul transformation expert would be courting death. Stop wasting words. I just need you to stall him for a few breaths. Furthermore, you're not permitted to tell anyone that I asked for help, said Xia Yuluo. Long Chen muttered to himself, why does it seem like all the benefits will be going to you, and I'm simply forced to keep your secret? Fine, I'll just keep it confidential. Long Chen simply wanted an important figure of the Bloodkill Hall to die in order to vent. As for other benefits, he didn't particularly care. Divine Ring, for Star Battle Armor. Heaven and earth shook as a four-colored ring soared into the sky. The divine ring unleashed immense pressure, so much so that even the formations on the buildings were unable to dispel it. At the same time, four stars appeared in Long Chen's eyes. His 108,000 immortal platforms began to quiver, giving him boundless energy. It was like a dragon awakening, like a volcano erupting. With Long Chen at the center, waves of qi soared into the sky. Long Chen looked like a battle god floating within heaven and earth now. What cultivation technique is this? The white-haired elder opened his eyes, looking at the divine ring with shock. At this moment, Long Chen was untouched by the Tao. None of the laws or Taos of heaven and earth were able to adhere to him. It was unknown whether he isolated himself from heaven or earth, or whether heaven and earth isolated him. The other thing that shocked the white-haired elder was this domineering will soaring out of Long Chen's bones. That will seemed to be dissatisfied by heaven and earth's restrictions and wanted to shatter its way through. Everyone looked at Long Chen like he was a monster. The manifestation Long Chen had summoned wasn't something they had ever seen or heard of. The most shocking thing was that Long Chen's power was not forming a resonance with the heavenly Taos. In other words, he wasn't even a celestial. Let me first tell you, my moves are only used to frighten people. You should hurry up, because if I do die, I'll become a ghost and haunt you every night, said Long Chen to Xia Yuluo. Just as Xia Yuluo jumped in shock from Long Chen's aura, Long Chen shot out. A kind of undefeatable aura surged out of him as if he was a god who had come to the mortal world. But when Long Chen's voice rang in her head, his undefeatable image in Xia Yuluo's mind vanished like a wisp of smoke. What kind of unrivaled expert would say such a thing? I know. Hurry up, said Xia Yuluo. Old ghost from the Bloodkill Hall, for the justice of the world, for the citizens of the Grand Xia, for the peace in the Central Plains, for my brothers and sisters watching, taste one of my attacks. Long Chen raised his saber, unleashed a huge saber image that tore through the clouds, and then slashed down on the Bloodkill Hall expert. What? Isn't this the heaven-splitting battle sex split the heavens? So he was one of the heaven-splitting battle sex disciples. Countless people let out startled cries. The heaven-splitting battle sect's 9 forms of split the heavens were famous, and they were widely known for their domineering and fierce power. Anyone who had seen one of the heaven-splitting battle sect's disciples attacking would be able to instantly tell when someone was using split the heavens. Other than its specific movements, only the 9 forms of split the heaven possessed a fierce will to slash through the dome of the sky. It was as if the 9 forms of split the heavens were moves designed to strive against the heavens. Countless people instantly recognized what move Long Chen was using. This huge saber image slashed down with an undefeatable will. As someone with immense battle experience, Long Chen timed his blow extremely well. It was just as the Bloodkill Hall expert exchanged a head-on blow with Xia Yuluo, when he had already used his energy but had yet to gather more energy for a second attack. The Bloodkill Hall expert almost coughed up blood upon seeing this move. Long Chen was incredibly despicable. He couldn't even counterattack in his current state. He could only take it. Boom. The Bloodkill Hall expert was blown back. He crashed against the barrier of a building and rebounded back, coughing up a mouthful of blood. This shocked people. Long Chen's attack was actually so powerful that it made this soul transformation expert cough up blood? Even Xia Yolua's terrifying attacks hadn't had such an effect. Didn't this mean Long Chen was even more powerful than Xia Yuluo? In truth, this move was just the 3rd form of Split the Heavens, and it managed to send the Bloodkill Hall expert flying because Long Chen had timed it perfectly. This move was far from enough to cause him to cough up blood. It wasn't enough to cause any injury at all. The reason he had coughed up blood was entirely from anger. This move was just that despicable. Brat die. With blood covering his chest, the Bloodkill Hall expert seemed to go insane. As an assassin, cool-headedness was a must. But he had already ignited the majority of his Yuan spirit, and his consciousness was already starting to fade. His emotions were a mess, so it made it far easier to anger him. Right now, all he wanted was to kill Long Chen. He roared furiously like a crazed bull and charged at Long Chen, slashing his sword down. This sword looked completely ordinary and didn't even have any runes around it. But that was actually even more terrifying. All its energy had been condensed, like a huge amount of gunpowder had been packed inside it, waiting to explode when it slashed through an enemy. Long Chen snorted and stabbed Blooddrinker straight at the Bloodkill Hall expert. It looked like he was using a suicidal move to kill his opponent, causing everyone to jump. Haha, are you trying to scare me? I've killed countless people, and I've long since grown tired of living. Let's go ahead and die together. The Bloodkill Hall expert laughed in the face of Long Chen's suicidal thrust. The path of his sword didn't change. Although Long Chen's saber had the advantage when it came to length, it didn't matter. If his saber struck him, Long Chen definitely wouldn't be able to dodge his sword. They would definitely both die. Xia Yuluo was in the midst of forming one-handed seals in the air. A golden rune had appeared on her forehead, and powerful fluctuations spread from her fierce sword chi. She was preparing one of her ultimate moves, but she still needed more time. Hence, she was shocked to see Long Chen use such a move and cursed him for being stupid inside. If he died, the Grand Xia's reputation would fall. But just panicking had no use. Just as their two weapons began to pass by each other, the tip of Long Chen's saber lightly touched the point of the Bloodkill Hall expert sword. A soft energy transferred through. The Bloodkill Hall expert's expression completely changed. He hadn't expected Long Chen's control over his energy to have reached such a terrifying level. His incredibly fierce power instantly transformed to become gentle. The soft power brushed his sword to the side without letting his sword's energy erupt. Now he was completely open and still moving toward Long Chen. Fool, who would die with you? Fuck off. Pow. After moving aside the Bloodkill Hall expert's sword, Long Chen slapped him hard across the face. He shot back like a shooting star. The direction he was slapped into was right at Xia Yuluo. She had just finished preparing her move, and it was like Long Chen was intentionally sending him to her. Soaring Cloud Death Blow. Xia Yuluo's sword slashed down. There was no sword light. People could only vaguely see a black crack appear in space. The Bloodkill Hall expert was struck by the black crack and instantly blew apart, turning into nothing more than dust that dissipated in the air. Even his Yuan spirit was killed. What a strange power. Long Chen saw it clearly. The energy contained within her sword was something he had never seen before. It was incredibly sharp, as if nothing could block its path. Even the Bloodkill Hall expert's king item shattered. But Xia Yolua's eyes rapidly dimmed after using this move. Although that light quickly recovered, Long Chen knew that she had paid a heavy price to use this move. She was just acting fine. Ha, Princess is mighty and domineering. I still have some things to do, so I'll leave first. If I have a chance in the future, I'll treat Princess to a meal, said Long Chen as he turned to leave. Hold. Who said you could leave? Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen curiously. She had felt like something was off the entire time. Now seeing him wanting to leave so hastily, she became even more sure something was fishy. Princess, could it be you want to treat me to the meal instead? I accept your kindness, but I just ate, so let's pick another day. At that time, I'll properly enjoy your Grand Xia's hospitality, said Long Chen. Long Chen didn't want to get close to her. She didn't seem like someone easy to get along with. Although his little dabbler face-reading arts were just used to trick others, he could tell a person's general character in just a glance. This woman was probably even more obstinate than Tangwan. There was no point in torturing himself. What is going on here? You want to just leave without saying a word? Don't you think you need to give us a clear explanation? Xia Yuluo didn't want to let Long Chen leave. She looked around and then pointed at the ruins on the ground from the collapsed tunnel. She wanted to bring Long Chen to an investigation. She continued to feel like something was strange about Long Chen, but she wasn't able to pinpoint what exactly. Although the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert had been killed by her, she still felt uncomfortable inside. So she wanted to find an excuse to keep Long Chen. However, she spent most of her time cultivating and wasn't socially skilled. And so she used the thing she was most comfortable with, her status as a princess, to hold Long Chen accountable. What is there to explain? I found the Bloodkill Hall's stronghold, and for the Grand Xia's honor, I risked my life to provoke them, making them cause such a huge disturbance so that you could come and capture them. Was there something wrong with that? Long Chen shrugged. But you could have reported it and we could have handled it from there, quibbled Xia Yuluo. Princess, are you joking? Since the Bloodkill Hall dared to operate right in the capital of Grand Xia, do you think they wouldn't prepare themselves? They have countless external workers. How many eyes do they have amongst the peddlers you passed on your way here? By the time your people arrived, they'd have long since run. My method was the only right choice. Long Chen shook his head. Xia Yuluo had turned red to her ears from Long Chen's arguments. She was unable to outtalk Long Chen, and she angrily said, I don't care. No matter what, you have to come back with us. There are many things I need to inquire about. Long Chen couldn't help being speechless. Now even such completely unreasonable words came out of her mouth. Just at this moment, a group of people walked over with Xia Yunchong at the front. So you must be world-renowned Long Chen. Am I right, Brother Long? Xia Yunchong had no choice but to reveal himself. He understood this little sister of his the best. She shared a father with him but a different mother. If he allowed her to continue like this, it was unknown just how much she would embarrass herself. He rushed out and cupped his fists to Long Chen. I wouldn't dare to call myself world-renowned. May I ask who you are? Long Chen's heart shook upon seeing this man. He sensed he was also an extremely terrifying fellow. Furthermore, he had 2 soul transformation experts as guards. As for the elder with his eyes closed, although none of his aura leaked out, Long Chen could still sense he was someone who had probably reached the same level as the Shen Master. Such a terrifying lineup shocked Long Chen. This was truly badass. Xia Yunchong said, This humble soul is the Grand Xia Dash. What's the point of so many words? He is the Grand Xia's 8th prince, Xia Yunchong, my big brother. Hurry up and come with us, said Xia Yuluo impatiently upon seeing them waste time going through pleasantries. Being interrupted by Xia Yuluo, Xia Yunchong awkwardly said, Cough, Brother Long, how about we switch locations before talking? This place isn't very convenient. Since Brother Xia is inviting me, I wouldn't dare to refuse. Long Chen smiled. This Xia Yunchong seemed much easier to get along with. Each of his movements was refined and natural. Long Chen felt it would be easier to talk with this man than an obstinate woman like Xia Yuluo, so he gladly agreed. Xia Yolua's expression grew a bit unsightly upon seeing Long Chen agree to Xia Yunchong's invitation so quickly. Long Chen hadn't given her any face. She frowned and was just about to flare up. Take note of your image. The elder suddenly frowned and icily opened his mouth. This elder's status was extremely special. Even the obstinate 17th princess immediately shut her mouth. She pouted and her eyes turned red. That aggrieved expression looked like she was about to cry. Brother Long, let's go back to my humble home, said Xia Yunchong hastily. One of the soul transformation experts waved a hand, and one of the surrounding buildings unleashed a wave of light that covered them all. They disappeared from the spectators' sight. Long Chen and the others had only just left when workers came to clean up the damage. The spectators scattered, but today, other than seeing the beauty and power of the 17th princess, they had also learned of another name, Long Chen, a monster who wasn't even a celestial but possessed incredible battle prowess. Long Chen was brought to an open flower garden. All kinds of rare flowers grew here, their fragrance washing over them. There were 4 maidens wearing palace-made clothes who were quietly standing within a pavilion. But these maids had actually reached the foundation forging realm. Quickly prepare some wine and food. Use the standards of a national banquet, said Xia Yuncheng to the maids. They were startled to hear such a thing, but they quickly left. The guards following Xia Yuncheng were also dismissed. Master, why don't you stay and drink a few cups? It's been a long time since we've drunk together, said Xia Yuncheng respectfully. An old man like me won't participate in a gathering of youngsters. The elder shook his head and vanished without the slightest spatial fluctuation. It was like he had simply merged with heaven and earth. He finally left. Xia Yuluo immediately cheered like a bird that had been stuck in its cage for a long time and had finally regained its freedom. She immediately started making things hard on Long Chen. Long Chen, I demand to know why you refused to come when I invited you, but as soon as he did, you immediately agreed. Xia Yuluo glared at Long Chen stiffly. She demanded a perfect explanation. Long Chen's actions had clearly irritated her, and now that the elder had gone, she once more became brazen. Yuluo, don't make trouble. If you keep acting like this, I'll report you to our imperial father, said Xia Yuncheng. You're mean. I wasn't even doing anything to you. You weren't like this before. You're all bad men bullying me. What Long Chen had never expected was for the incredibly powerful Xia Yuluo to actually start sobbing. He was flabbergasted. Seeing Long Chen's stunned expression, Xia Yuncheng was embarrassed. Xia Yuluo was his younger sister, and even as a child, she had gotten along best with him. She often threw tantrums, and whatever happened, she would always ask him to stand up for her. He truly did love and pamper her. Yuluo, you're already so old. You can't keep acting like this. Xia Yuncheng was at a loss. Now that I'm old, you don't want me anymore. You don't love me anymore, right? Our imperial father doesn't love me, the imperial mother doesn't love me, and now even you don't love me. That's the most painful thing. Xia Yolua's face was covered in tears. Looking at her would truly make a person's heart clench. All right, stop. I still love you, so stop crying. Xia Yuncheng patted Xia Yuluo on the back. But you're still so mean to me, saying that you'll report me. Fine, I won't report you, I won't be mean to you. It's Big Brother's fault, okay? Said Xia Yuncheng helplessly. Really? I just knew Big Brother loved me the most. Long Chen, I demand to know why you wouldn't accept my invitation, but immediately came when Big Brother invited you. Xia Yolua's face was still covered in crystalline tears, but she had a smile of victory on her face. You! Xia Yuncheng almost exploded in fury. He had once more fallen for her trap. Big Brother, why are you so petty? I'm just asking a question. Do you need to stare at me like this? Said Xia Yuluo. Long Chen was now sure that this 17th princess was a child who had been spoiled rotten. He couldn't help finding it a bit funny. But their brother and sister relationship did move him. In the imperial palace where all relationships were complicated and only used for one's advancement, there were plenty of cases of sons killing fathers or brothers fighting over profits. Brother Long, Xia Yuncheng was also helpless. Oh, it's fine. The 17th princess's question isn't difficult to answer, said Long Chen. He saw Xia Yuncheng giving him a meaningful look, indicating he should give Xia Yuluo face, or she'd immediately turn hostile. He said, if I accepted the 17th princess's invitation, the day of my death would have drawn near. I'm greedy for life, so I couldn't accept your invitation. Xia Yuncheng was speechless. Long Chen hadn't understood his meaning? As expected, Xia Yuluo raged, I'm not that kind of unreasonable person. If I invited you as a guest, why would I kill you? Long Chen shook his head. You didn't understand my meaning. As soon as I entered the Grand Xia, I heard of the 17th princess's outstanding beauty and peerless abilities. You have countless admirers, and some of them line up outside Grand Xia City just to see you. The line extends all the way to the Grand Han. This little one could not bear to be invited to see the princess alone. Those admirers would tear me to pieces. Hearing this, Xia Yuluo immediately smiled like a blossoming flower. So that's what it was. Then I'm happy. Tell me, outside what gate are they lined up at? She believed such nonsense? Long Chen saw that Xia Yuluo was full of anticipation, And it didn't seem to be faked. All he had been doing was giving a disguised apology, so he had exaggerated it to make it a joke. Then everyone could make merry and move on. But this girl actually thought it was true. Long Chen, are there people from the Grand Han lining up as well? I wonder if he'll appear. Xia Yuluo suddenly turned red, and her eyes became unfocused. She clutched her clothes, clearly nervous and uneasy. Long Chen was talking about something that happened a few months ago. Yuluo, it's about time for you to go back. I have some things I need to discuss with Brother Long, interjected Xia Yunchong. Xia Yuluo was a bit unwilling, but she was still shooed away by Xia Yunchong. Sorry, I've caused Brother Long to laugh. This little sister of mine still has a child's temperament. Sigh, she's simply been spoiled. After shooing off Xia Yuluo, Xia Yunchong apologized to Long Chen. Long Chen shook his head. There's nothing to laugh about. I'm very envious of Brother Xia. I wish I could pamper my little sister as well. If she wants to act like a spoiled child, I would also let her. Seeing the sibling relationship between Xia Yunchong and Xia Yuluo made Long Chen think of his own little sister. The time they had been together had been far too short. She had only just grown familiar with him before he had left. Perhaps she no longer had any memory of her big brother. Every time he thought of this, he would feel sentimental. Brother Long, the food and drink has already been prepared. There were all kinds of delicacies set up on a table. They looked like beautiful gems and smelled delicious. Long Chen almost couldn't bear to eat them. This is the Wine God Palace's fine wine. Brother Long, have a taste. Xia Yunchong handed Long Chen a cup full of wine. There wasn't the slightest fragrance coming from this cup. It looked like pure water. But the moment it entered his mouth, its fragrance exploded. Furthermore, some faint energy went through his teeth and up to his head. Long Chen instantly felt like his divine sense had grown sharper. This is practically divine wine, capable of shaking the world. The wine is silent, like heaven and earth's tranquility. But it traverses the profundities of the world, allowing one to hear the profound music of the Grand Tao. Tasting this wine, he unconsciously said words that appeared in his heart without him even knowing it. This wine was too miraculous. The winemaker was definitely an expert. They had actually imparted their comprehension of the heavenly Taos into the wine. He was not exaggerating when he said that it was divine wine. Brother Long truly is a master of wine. With just a taste, you could comprehend the realm within it. With this kind of shocking comprehension, I must bring you to the Wine God Palace today. They'll definitely treat you well to gain your wisdom, exclaimed Xia Yunchong. The Wine God Palace had different names for all their wines, and all of them had their own realms. That was closely related to the abilities of the winemakers. But the Wine God Palace's people were all strange. Only they would know the name of the wine they made. They would send their wine to others to taste. If others could say the realm of the wine, they would bestow more wine upon them. Otherwise, not even a mountain of wealth could buy a single drop. They were a group of prideful artisans. They would only give their art to people who could appreciate it. Brother Long, let me offer you a cup. Xia Yunchong raised his cup, and Long Chen immediately touched his cup to his. They drained the cups in one gulp. This wine had to be drunk with small cups, or it would be an absolute waste. After a few cups had entered their stomachs, they became friendlier and almost started to feel like they regretted not having met each other earlier. Brother Long, I heard you killed Han Zhenyu? Asked Xia Yunchong. Yes, I killed him. That brat really knew how to be a poser. Brother Xia, do you not quite know what that word means? Asked Long Chen. It would be normal for a refined prince to not know such crass language. Brother Long, are you looking down on me? When I reached the Xiantian realm, I was tossed out into the cultivation world to live on my own for 2 years. I'm not a greenhouse flower like you imagine. Let me tell you, I almost died 3 times in 1 year. No one was there to look after me. The last time was especially dangerous. I accidentally ended up entering one of the corrupt path strongholds and was attacked by countless experts. I had no support, but just by using my Xiantian realm cultivation base, I killed my way out of the corrupt experts. I slew over 1,000 sea expansion experts and countless Xiantian experts. In the end, I put everything on the line in order to kill 3 foundation forging experts. After those 2 years, I returned to the Grand Xia. My imperial father looked through my tempering stone, which recorded my experiences over those 2 years, and arranged for me to apprentice myself to my current master. He is my master as well as my Tao protector. He is the person I respect the most in my life, even more than my father. A respectful and worshipful expression appeared on Xia Yuncheng's face when he spoke of his master. Your Tao protector? Could it be that brother Xia, you walk, the undefeatable Tao? Asked Long Chen with shock. He had heard that only people who walked the undefeatable Tao had Tao protectors. Why are you so surprised? Don't you also cultivate the same Tao? Now it was Xia Yuncheng's turn to be surprised. Me? How could I walk the undefeatable Tao? I just blindly muddled my way to my current level. Long Chen bitterly smiled. He had heard that those who walked the undefeatable Tao could never suffer a defeat in their life. Once they were defeated, their Tao heart would crumble, and they would be completely crippled. That was why those who walked the undefeatable Tao had to have a supreme expert as a Tao protector. The Tao protector's duty was to prevent powerful enemies from forcing a battle with the genius walking the undefeatable Tao. How could that be possible? When you fought the elder from the Bloodkill Hall, the will that burst out of you was clearly an undefeatable will. This kind of pressure is identical to my own. I definitely can't be wrong. Xia Yuncheng couldn't believe it. Let's not fight over this problem. Let's keep drinking. Long Chen filled Xia Yuncheng's cup. Brother Long, do you really not walk the undefeatable Tao? You've been defeated before? Xia Yuncheng pressed him, wanting to figure out what was going on. Not only have I been defeated before, but I've also been beaten so many times I can't even keep track. There was even one expert a whole level stronger than me who once chased me down through the mountains like I was a dog. Tisage, let's not talk about this. It's embarrassing. Long Chen raised his cup. Xia Yuncheng looked at Long Chen. He felt like Long Chen had no reason to lie to him. But he himself walked the undefeatable Tao, and that undefeatable will that came from the depths of Long Chen's bones and even the depths of his soul was something Xia Yuncheng couldn't be wrong about. The two of them continued drinking. Seeing that Xia Yuncheng was still troubled over this question, Long Chen laughed and decided to tell him about this past. He told him all about his cultivation journey. Other than some private secrets like the primal chaos bead, he didn't hold back. Xia Yuncheng learned about how miserable Long Chen's youth had been, how he had been humiliated and bullied. When he was 15, he had still only been at the 3rd heaven stage of qi condensation. In just a few years, he had grown to his current level. Xia Yuncheng was full of admiration. So you really don't walk the undefeatable Tao. But within your endless trials, the more the world tries to obstruct you, the fiercer you become. Perhaps this is another kind of undefeatable Tao. Come, let me raise a cup to you in admiration. I, Xia Yuncheng, have never admitted inferiority to anyone, but I admire your will which refuses to bend even in the face of countless setbacks, praised Xia Yuncheng. Xia Yuncheng had always treated his 2 years in the wilds fighting on the brink of life and death as the greatest pride of his life. But when he compared it to Long Chen's history, he felt embarrassed just to mention it. There was no way to compare them. From the struggles in the Phoenix Cry Empire, his rise in the Jiuli secret realm, his dominance over the eastern wastelands, and his various difficulties since reaching the Central Plains, he had experienced countless dangers, and each of those dangers had been like dancing on the tip of a blade. Long Chen had fought his way from being a poor noble son within the secular world to his current height. Everything he had been fought for with his life on the line. As for Xia Yuncheng, although he had also put his life on the line, the majority of what he had was from having a powerful backer like the Grand Xia. So Xia Yuncheng truly admired Long Chen. The two of them only grew friendlier as they drank, and in the end, they became close friends who could say anything to each other. Brother Long, you said the reason you came here is because you have friends in my Grand Xia? Do you need me to look after them? Asked Xia Yuncheng. Long Chen hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. These friends of mine are a bit special. In truth, if Xia Yunchong could support the original devil race, then they would instantly soar to new heights. But that was far too dangerous. If the original devil race was one day exposed, then the Grand Xia would become the world's enemy. It might even be destroyed. Long Chen might be willing to do stupid things, but he wouldn't do such an immoral thing. Brother Xia, to tell you the truth, the reason I came here was because I was forced. I provoked a disaster this time, and I came here to avoid it. Will I end up causing you trouble? Asked Long Chen. What trouble? I've long since wanted to properly put the Grand Han's egomaniacs in their place. I've just never had a chance. As for the ancient races, although they are powerful, the ancient race alliance is not necessarily all like-minded. You only offended one race, so there's nothing to fear there. As for the Pill Tower, we have no relations with them due to their dispute with the Wine God Palace. Even without the Pill Tower's support, we can still cooperate with the Huayan sect. Furthermore, we have the Wine God Palace's support, so there's no need to care about them. Also, I suppose it's possible that you don't know this. After you left, your Shen Tiandao sect master gave those 4 powers a vicious slap in the face, and it was done within the Martial Heaven Alliance in front of countless experts. The sound of that slap, Xia Yunchong told Long Chen what news he had gathered. Long Chen hadn't realized that the huge trouble he had caused would be settled so easily by the Shen master. Then I can return to the Shen Tiandao sect whenever I want? Long Chen was delighted. Well, you can't leave too quickly. Since you've come to the Grand Xia, you must stay for a few more days. Otherwise, it would have been a waste to have run away. Here, drink. Laughed Xia Yunchong. Hee, there's food, there's drink, and there are fun things to do. Where else could I find such a great place? I'll just treat it as a little vacation to relax, laughed Long Chen. Long Chen felt like he had always been working these past few years. More and more things kept popping up, and he had never had time to relax. His nerves had been tense all this time, and it was exhausting. He really did need to relax a bit. That would be beneficial to his cultivation. Brother Xia, when I was joking with your sister, it seems now that they were friends, Long Chen could speak directly. He felt that at that time, there had been something odd with Xia Yuluo, and anger had appeared in Xia Yunchong's eyes. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but just mentioning that infuriates me. That girl, although her cultivation base is powerful, her mind is simple. She has been affected by the worship of the idols from the Grand Han and has ended up infatuated with one of the Grand Han's 3 monarchs, Han Wenjun. Xia Yunchong had a belly full of anger upon saying this. Long Chen's expression became sluggish. He had guessed accurately. The Grand Han actually knew how to use beautiful men. If Xia Yuluo really was seduced to the Grand Han by that Han Wenjun, it would be a huge slap in the face of the Grand Xia, and the Grand Han would have also snatched away an expert. That would be a grievous blow to the Grand Xia's morale. You haven't tried persuading her? Asked Long Chen. Do you think she'd listen to my persuasion? She's extremely stubborn and refuses to listen to anyone, said Xia Yuluo helplessly. Then what about your father? Him? He only cares about the state. Although he hasn't said anything, I understand him. He does what's best for the nation. If Xia Yuluo dares to marry Han Wenjun, my father will not hesitate to kill her before she can, said Xia Yunchong. He snorted furiously, clearly dissatisfied with his father. Really? Long Chen jumped. Xia Yuluo's father would be this vicious to her? You just don't understand. Xia Yunchong shook his head. All rulers must act like this. They have to put the interests of the state before themselves. Anyone can be sacrificed for the nation. Although I don't approve this kind of thing, I have no choice but to admit there's no other solution. The Grand Xia isn't just the imperial families. It belongs to each one of the civilians living within it, and we have a responsibility to each of them. Xia Yunchong was filled with helplessness toward this. He understood Xia Yuluo the best. She was far too obstinate, and sometimes she would refuse to change her mind even if it meant death. That was what worried him. Long Chen, if you have a chance, I hope you can help me advise her. I really don't want to see the day when she dies to our father's butcher blade. Xia Yunchong looked at Long Chen with a pleading expression. Long Chen swore inside, I might be alright at picking up girls, but comforting and convincing one isn't my specialty. Furthermore, that girl is definitely a thorned rose. Although she is beautiful, not everyone can enjoy her. Long Chen didn't want to give himself another burden. He wanted to say he was powerless to do anything about this, but looking at Xia Yuncheng's pleading expression, he was unable to bring himself to say it. Fine, I'll do my best. Long Chen could only thicken his skin with a bitter expression. He felt like he was getting more and more stupid. He had actually picked up another burden for himself. But if the positions were reversed, he would also not be able to just watch as his little sister jumped into someone else's trap. And the most difficult thing to accept was that the person who would want to kill his little sister would be his own father. That was an incredibly tragic thing. Many thanks, Brother Long. This little sister of mine rarely speaks with others, but she treats you differently. If she gets willful, just yield a bit to her and she'll quickly become your friend. Although she's willful and petty, she's kind inside and easily trusts others. Otherwise, she wouldn't have become so infatuated with that effeminate man, said Xia Yuncheng with a bitter smile. The two of them continued drinking. Long Chen found that the Wine God Palace's wine was truly amazing. Although his cultivation base wasn't growing, his mental realm was growing more tranquil and clearly rising. He even felt like his fiery temper was being changed. They drank all the way until the sky brightened once more. The sky had only just brightened when Xia Yuluo ran in. Yuluo, you're right on time. Bring Brother Long for a trip to the Wine God Palace. Xia Yuncheng cast a special glance at Long Chen. Long Chen, is what you said yesterday true? Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen with excitement. She was talking about how the line of her admirers stretched all the way back to the Grand Han. It's possibly true. I heard two blind people gesturing toward a map with two deaf people on my way to the capital. That's when I heard that story, said Long Chen helplessly. Seeing Xia Yolua's thoughts seem to wander away, Long Chen grumbled inside. He had to constantly worry about her discussing that story with him. At this time, Long Chen and Xia Yoluo were walking toward the Wine God Palace. They had a large mass of guards following them. Quite a few youngsters were looking over at Xia Yuluo with adoring expressions. Xia Yuluo was a goddess amongst the Grand Xia civilians. Countless youngsters worshipped her. However, the Grand Xia's youngsters tended to be very reserved with their emotions, and they only looked at her from a distance. They didn't dare to come forward and pay their respects to her. As for Long Chen, he looked incredibly sloppy in comparison, without the slightest air of the imperial family. He looked like a loafer without the slightest care. He was looking left and right, admiring the historical sites located all over the city. Sometimes when Xia Yuluo was pressing him, he would intentionally exclaim in admiration over a certain building's magnificence, and then ask the guards about the building's history. He managed to change the subject like this over and over again. But Xia Yuluo was like a child, and despite how obviously Long Chen was trying to avoid this subject, she still couldn't sense it. Seeing Long Chen constantly changing the subject, she raged, "Long Chen, I've asked you so many times, but you refuse to give me an answer. Do you have any manners at all?" Long Chen was speechless. Just who didn't have any manners? He clearly didn't want to reply, but she continued to press him. How was that reasonable? Xia Yuncheng had told Xia Yuluo to bring Long Chen to the Wine God Palace. But as a result, as soon as they left the door, Xia Yuluo began pressing Long Chen for information. When she wasn't asking about the line of admirers, she asked about the Grand Han. "Princess, please spare me. I really don't know anything about the Grand Han. How am I supposed to answer you?" Long Chen bitterly smiled. "Liar. You killed one of the Grand Han's 8 princes, Han Zhenyu. Having become enemies with the Grand Han, didn't you come to my Grand Xia just to take refuge?" Raged Xia Yuluo. Long Chen's expression suddenly sank. He coldly looked at Xia Yuluo. "Respected princess, there are a few things I should make clear. First, I really don't know about the Grand Han, and I don't want to talk about it. Second, the reason I have come to the Grand Xia is not because I'm taking refuge. I always face my battles, and my path from the eastern wasteland to the central plains was built through my enemy's bones. I've never asked for anyone's protection. It hasn't happened in the past, it isn't happening now, and it won't happen in the future. Third, when you speak to me, take note of your words. Although you are a princess, don't think others need to give you whatever you want just because of your status or beauty. Fourth, don't be so arrogant, because your arrogance has no power backing it. If it weren't for the Grand Xia's upbringing, then no matter how good your talent, you would never have had your current accomplishments. Everything you have was bestowed by your father, your mother, your brothers, and the Grand Xia's people. Can you tell me a single thing that you have achieved with your own power? Just where does your pride and confidence come from? Long Chen had been enduring this the entire time. Because Xia Yuncheng had entrusted him with this mission, Long Chen had exercised patience with Xia Yolua's rude questions. As he endured, he repeatedly told himself that she was just a child and that he couldn't treat her like an adult. But it seemed like she never used her head before speaking, and she didn't care about other people's feelings. Hence, he finally exploded. Xia Yolua's expression sank and she raged, "You are provoking me. Don't say such a senseless thing. I stopped playing with such words in my youth. The people who have said such things to me have long since been buried. Although your cultivation base and power might be greater than mine, if we were to truly fight to the death, the one to die would definitely be you." Long Chen suddenly stopped walking and stared at Xia Yuluo icily, his eyes revealing his confidence. He wasn't trying to intimidate Xia Yuluo. He felt like her confidence had inflated after killing the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert. But there had been many special factors that had allowed her to kill him, which were not based on her own power. The Bloodkill Hall's people didn't specialize in fighting head-on. They specialized in assassinations and escaping arts. It was because of Long Chen that the Bloodkill Hall expert had given up on running, as he was too enticed by the thought of killing Long Chen. Then he had ignited too much of his Yuan spirit and his consciousness had grown muddled. He had actually forgotten about Long Chen and launched an attack on Xia Yuluo, who had been preparing one of her ultimate moves. If she had fought another soul transformation expert, she would be in danger of being killed in one blow. "You!" Xia Yuluo's hand gripped her sword, and her aura began to condense. All the guards behind them were shocked. Just what was going on? How could she want to start fighting without a word? These guards were Xia Yuncheng's people. Xia Yuluo was Xia Yuncheng's little sister, while Long Chen was Xia Yuncheng's precious guest. If these two fought, they wouldn't even know who to help. "You aren't my match. In a life and death battle, I would definitely take your life within 3 moves. If I can't, I, Long Chen, will immediately kill myself in front of Grand Xia City." Long Chen clasped his hands behind his back, his voice icy and emotionless. The previously smiling Long Chen, who looked like a big brother, had instantly become a merciless death god. Xia Yolua's heart was swamped with terror as she looked at Long Chen's eyes. She seemed to be able to see a boundless mountain of corpses and sea of blood within the depths of those eyes. This was Long Chen's killing intent that was normally hidden in his heart. It was accumulated from countless huge battles. Now, he was no longer hiding it, allowing Xia Yuluo to see it. Xia Yuluo had grown up in the Imperial Palace and spent most of her time cultivating. Although she was powerful, her experience was pitifully low. She couldn't possibly compare to someone like Long Chen, who had crawled his way out of a pile of corpses. She trembled, her face pale. Long Chen's mouth curled and he said, "Put away that move you used against your big brother. I've already said that not everybody has to pamper you. At the very least, I won't. I'm going to the Wine God Palace. You can go back." Long Chen turned and continued onward. Xia Yuluo stood there blankly for a long moment. She wanted to cry yet didn't dare to. She didn't know what to do. She suddenly clenched her teeth, wiped away the tears in the corners of her eyes, and chased after Long Chen. "Why are you following me?" Long Chen frowned. "Who would follow you? This is my Grand Xia City, and I am the Grand Xia's princess. This is my home and I can go wherever I want. Does it have anything to do with you?" snorted Xia Yuluo. In truth, Xia Yuluo had been terrified just now, and she felt that leaving like this or going back to complain would cause her to lose face, as well as make her seem cowardly. In order to express her bravery, she was intentionally going along with Long Chen. Long Chen glanced at her. Seeing Xia Yuluo glaring at him, he didn't say a word. He simply continued onward, with Xia Yuluo following beside him. Those guards all sighed with relief. As long as they didn't fight, it was fine. They hastily followed behind them. Just as they left, a middle-aged man in ashen robes followed them with his eyes from a tea parlor. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. Along with his square nose, his face looked like it had been carved with a blade. He was extremely imposing. This Long Chen is fierce and domineering. He's quite the fearless character. The middle-aged man nodded with a hint of praise. He was none other than the Grand Xia's current emperor, Xia Yuluo, and Xia Yuncheng's father, the person with the greatest authority within the entire Grand Xia ancient nation. Beside him was a white-haired elder, Xia Yuncheng's master. His eyes were closed and his expression was indifferent. "Do you see anything special about him?" asked the white-haired man. "He is not in agreement with the heavenly Daos. He clashes with the laws of the world. Just now when he released his killing intent, I could see just how bloody and painful his path has been. That killing light in his eyes is decisive and firm, while his spiritual fluctuations make him appear to be a person who makes meaningful relationships. That's definitely not the appearance of a heaven Caesar. The heavenly fate pavilion was intentionally inverting right and wrong," said the middle-aged man. "Chonga chatted with him last night. The two of them ended up close and trusting each other. Chonga has entrusted Yuluo to Long Chen, hoping he can save her life," said the elder. The middle-aged man looked at the street. A calm but sad expression appeared in his eyes. Her fate was set a long time ago. The tribulation of her life has come, and she will definitely betray my Grand Xia. If I don't kill her, the Grand Xia will end up in upheaval. While the fate decreed by the heavens cannot be violated and cultivators must comply with the heavenly Daos, the laws of heaven and earth are too profound to comprehend. Even if you comply with the heavenly Daos, you won't necessarily have a good end. But there is one kind of person that is an exception. Anyone who is infected by such a person's karma will have their fate change. However, whether it is a blessing or misfortune is hard to say," said the white-haired elder. "You're talking about..." The middle-aged man's expression changed. "The twists of fate are not easily exposed. As long as you know this inside, as the ruler of the Grand Xia, you should know what to do," said the white-haired elder profoundly. The middle-aged man was silent for a long time before he nodded. "I understand." "Long Chen, I'm 18. How old are you?" As Long Chen advanced silently, Xia Yuluo seemed to forget her previous unhappiness and took the initiative to speak to Long Chen. 22, said Long Chen without overthinking it. "Ah, then you're already really old," exclaimed Xia Yuluo. Long Chen almost stumbled. He corrected, "The word is mature." "Hee, you're this much older than me. How about I call you Uncle Long?" laughed Xia Yuluo. Long Chen instantly understood she was getting revenge. He irritably said, "Your brother is already 27. If you call me uncle, wouldn't you have to call him grandpa? That's not the same. We're real brother and sister, so it's not calculated by age." "Uncle Long, you look really young for your age," said Xia Yuluo. That's not bad. When I see your father, I can directly call him Big Brother." Long Chen wasn't afraid of playing such a game with her. "Oh, we've arrived." Long Chen suddenly saw a tall and simple construction. Although Long Chen had never gone to the Wine God Palace, just by seeing this construction, he could tell he had arrived. It was less than 30 miles in diameter. Looking from the air, it looked like a huge wine pot lying on its side. It was definitely a unique structure. The entrance was the wine pot spout. Even from the entrance, he could smell a dense wine fragrance that could intoxicate him. "Hey, granduncle, once we go inside, you have to act with propriety. If you get kicked out, it would be too embarrassing. At that time, don't blame me for not being loyal and acting like I don't know you," said Xia Yuluo solemnly. Uncle Long had now become granduncle. It felt like he had aged another couple of decades. Well, it wasn't as if Long Chen wanted her loyalty. He shook his head. "That's fine. In any case, someone as old as me isn't afraid of losing face. But little girl, If you're worried about being implicated, you can go first. Since he was being called granduncle, Long Chen took advantage of his newfound seniority to call her little girl. Do you think I'm such a disloyal person? I'm just telling you to reserve yourself a bit. This is the Wine God Palace, and if you cause trouble, you'll be kicked out. Not only will you lose face, but my imperial father will also scold you, warned the little girl. Big brother won't blame me. After all, we're brothers. Long Chen thickened his skin and directly called the leader of the Grand Xia his big brother. Now he wasn't just taking advantage of Xia Yuluo, he was even superior to Xia Yunchong. If my father learns of this, he'll definitely cut off your head. The little girl clenched her teeth. She had never seen someone so shameless. That's fine. To die to my brother's blade, it wouldn't be a vain death. I'm going in, so you should leave. Wine isn't something a little girl should drink, said Long Chen. You're the child. I've already become an adult. What's the big deal? The worst case is I get kicked out again, snorted the little girl. Long Chen looked at Xia Yuluo oddly. Why does it feel like you've already been kicked out before? Only then did Xia Yuluo realize she had exposed herself with her own mouth. She turned red and bashfully said, At that time, I was still young and didn't understand. I won't be kicked out now. Then will I end up being implicated by you? It'd be embarrassing to be kicked out as soon as I enter. Long Chen hesitated. Now he really didn't want Xia Yuluo to follow him. He didn't want to get kicked out with her. I was still young last year. They were the petty ones. Even if I was in the wrong, I was just a little child. Humph, I can't believe they quibbled with a child like that, said Xia Yuluo. Last year? If she really had been a little child at that time, then she was truly a genius. But now that they had come here, Long Chen could only thicken his skin and enter. He hoped this little girl wouldn't cause any trouble. The entrance didn't have any guards, nor was there anyone to receive them. Once they were inside, they found themselves in front of a tranquil courtyard. There was a stone stele in front of them with an image on it. The image contained a man in shoddy clothes. He was half lying against a peach tree, a wine pot in his hand. It was clear he was drunk. He was looking into the distance with a lost expression, seeming half intoxicated, half sober. The scene was very lifelike. His clothes were worn out, and he had dust all over him. He was extremely sloppy, with a few flower petals lying on his head. But he gave off an air of freedom and relaxation. This was a realm, one where the body rested within the world of mortal dust, while the heart was flying within the clouds. As soon as Long Chen looked at it, he was drawn in by that realm. In that instant, he felt all his mundane worries fall away from him. His heart became empty. The lines forming the man were very simple, almost careless. But just these few lines bestowed that man a moving divine charm. Long Chen followed where that man was looking to see 9 brilliant stars shining in the air. They were like a ring of blazing suns in the upper left corner of the image. Long Chen, go light the incense. Suddenly, Long Chen felt Xia Yuluo push him. Only then did Long Chen wake from his stupor and realize that a youth in hemp clothes with his hair worn in a bun was offering him incense. Sorry. Long Chen hastily received the incense sticks. The youth shook his head. Esteemed guest, there's no need for you to apologize. This image is the wine god. For you to be drawn in by the wine god's divine charm means you have destiny between you two. Although this youth was just a teen, his voice was naturally tranquil. He was neither servile nor overbearing, neither arrogant nor impatient. Long Chen received the incense sticks. Lighting them, he placed them into the censer. He had only just put them in when his 3 incense sticks instantly turned to ash. What? The youth was shocked. He had no idea what had happened. These incense sticks were made of special material. No matter what kind of outer force tried to disturb them, they would always burn for exactly 15 minutes. But now, they had instantly been incinerated. He had never seen such a phenomenon. Long Chen and Xia Yuluo were also surprised. Miss, please also place the incense. The youth hesitated but still handed incense sticks to Xia Yuluo. Xia Yuluo ignited her incense sticks and placed them inside. Everything was normal this time. The 3 incense sticks were slowly burning. "Please enter." The youth waved his hand to them in a welcoming gesture. "Long Chen, what happened just now?" asked Xia Yuluo stealthily as they entered the courtyard. "How rude. Call me uncle." Long Chen intentionally put on a chiding expression. Who would call you that?" Xia Yuluo sniffed and turned her head. Just like that, the title of uncle was tossed aside. Long Chen laughed inside. This little girl wasn't even close to his match. But he also couldn't offend this little girl. He said, "In truth, I also don't know. I just felt a mystical energy destroy those incense sticks. It was like a strange kind of energy had refused to allow Long Chen to offer incense. But Long Chen also wasn't clear on that. He just felt it was extremely strange." "Just like what?" Seeing Long Chen suddenly stop talking, Xia Yuluo hastily questioned him. "Just like, Sai, I'm not very erudite, and I don't know how to describe it." Long Chen shook his head dimly. "That's fine, just think about it. I'm not in a rush." Xia Yuluo was very curious and had to know. It's just like someone is going to the bathroom and suddenly realized they were out of toilet paper. At this time, someone gave them a wooden stick, but after a moment's hesitation, they refused the stick. "It's probably because they're waiting for someone to give them paper instead," said Long Chen. "What on earth are you talking about? How can you compare placing incense on a censer to such a thing? One's fragrant and one's smelly. They're completely different. Furthermore, so what if there's no paper or stick?" asked Xia Yuluo. It appeared his incredibly crappy joke was truly crappy. He supposed the royal people in the palace had never used a stick to wipe their butts. But after Long Chen said this, Xia Yuluo stopped asking. Once they were inside, Long Chen found that this building, which looked like a wine pot, actually had its own space inside. There were mountains, rivers, and lakes. The scenery stretched as far as the eye could see. The Wine God Palace is in itself a treasure. It contains its own spatial formation inside. There's plenty of farmland, and all the ingredients they put into their wine are grown themselves, said Xia Yuluo. She was now much more well-behaved upon entering the Wine God Palace. There was a small mountain not far from them. A stone path meandered its way toward it. Plenty of old trees grew within the mountain, and everything was extremely secluded and beautiful. A few pavilions were hidden within the trees, looking like peaceful places to live. At the foot of the mountain, they suddenly sensed a faint drizzle watering the flourishing grass. This place was full of life. What an amazing place! As the drizzle washed over him, Long Chen couldn't help but exclaim in praise. This seemed to be the kind of place where an expert would choose to live in seclusion. Here, all his troubles seemed to vanish. Does no one normally come to the Wine God Palace? Why aren't there any outsiders here? Asked Long Chen. Do you think just anyone can come here? People who want to come inside have to make an appointment. Only the members of my Grand Xia's imperial family have the privilege of bringing people in to pay respects at any time, said Xia Yuluo disdainfully. It seemed she still remembered her enmity with him. As long as he gave her an opportunity, she would immediately get some revenge. Long Chen stepped onto the stone stairs and suddenly felt a strange energy wash over him. He felt some kind of energy stripping him of all his power. This is the Wine God Palace's formation. It strips us of our cultivation base, making us just mortals. It's truly strange, explained Xia Yuluo. A mortal? Are you saying you're an immortal? Laughed Long Chen. As this mystical energy stripped him of his power, Long Chen felt the primal chaos bead begin to slowly circulate. Long Chen hastily stopped it. He knew the primal chaos bead was beginning to automatically resist this energy. He didn't want to cause a fuss and allowed the energy to wash through him. It sealed his meridians, immortal platforms, and even his spiritual strength. At this time, Long Chen only had the power of his physical body. His divine sense vanished. At first, he wasn't used to it, but as time passed, he felt his heart became more relaxed than ever. There was a kind of pleasure in returning to being a normal mortal. It couldn't be expressed with words. After losing all that you depended upon, you would suddenly feel more at peace, as if all your burdens had been put down. It was another kind of experience. But Long Chen saw Xia Yuluo frown. She clearly didn't like this feeling. Let's go. Long Chen continued onward. This was his first time feeling so solid. It was a feeling of having his feet firmly planted on the ground. Even just walking across the ground was an extremely moving experience now. However, these stone stairs had grass and moss growing over them, making them slippery. It was all too easy to lose your balance here. Aya! Xia Yuluo had only taken a few careful steps when she slipped. Despite doing her best to avoid the mossy parts, she still slipped. If she fell, she would become covered in mud. Long Chen hastily grabbed her, allowing her to steady herself. This damn dash! Xia Yuluo was just about to curse this damn path for being so hard to walk on when she clamped her hands over her mouth. She looked around and seeing there was no one else around, she relaxed. Were you kicked out last time because of this? Long Chen looked at Xia Yuluo curiously. What do you think? All I did was grumble and complain a bit, and they kicked me out. Don't you think they're petty? Xia Yuluo whispered like she was in the midst of a heist. You just don't understand them. Just entering this place is a rare opportunity that you couldn't buy no matter how much gold you have. The Wine God Palace kindly let you enter, and then you spit on their kindness. Naturally they'd get angry. Think about this. What if you were to give a pastry to a starving person, but that person had never seen a pastry before and thought you were offering them a pile of dung, so they got angry at you for insulting them? Would you get mad then? Asked Long Chen. It's a nice argument, but did you have to make it sound so disgusting? Could you not make a more elegant comparison? Xia Yuluo glared at Long Chen. I'm not an elegant person by nature, so why bother acting? Long Chen shook his head. But I'm a woman. Can't you reserve yourself a bit? Raged Xia Yuluo. You're a woman? I think of you as just a little girl. Come this way. Long Chen continued onward. Hey, wait a moment. You have to hold my hand, or I'll fall. Cried Xia Yuluo upon seeing Long Chen go on without her. It's not convenient for me, a man, to hold the hand of a woman. You should just walk slowly on your own, declined Long Chen. You're a man? I just treat you as a granduncle. What's wrong with you holding my hand? Xia Yuluo used Long Chen's own words to strike back at him. Long Chen laughed. This little girl actually did have some skill. He took her hand. He clearly felt her quiver and blush a bit. Long Chen was the first outsider Xia Yuluo had touched like this. But to express her courage, she put on an indifferent expression. Long Chen pulled her forward a few steps. In truth, this path is a kind of cultivation. Cultivation? Xia Yuluo was flabbergasted. Yes, a kind of heart cultivation. Once you lose everything you depend on, you can return to your original state. This is a way to temper your heart. You're still too young, and you've experienced too little. In your eyes, mud is dirty, so you don't want to touch it. But you've forgotten, everything on the ground was born from the mud and earth. Everything you eat, everything you use, it has come from the mud. Do you think the spirit fruits you eat are clean? Your shoes touch the ground every day, and yet you think it's filthy? Everything high class is built on top of the low class as a foundation. When a person has nothing to eat, when a person has no guarantee of being able to live to tomorrow, the only thing they'll think about is survival. Only when people have guaranteed their own survival do they seek higher things. But many people end up chasing those things until they've forgotten the essence of life. The formation here allows us to return to our original state, allowing us to see the essence of life clearly. Cultivation isn't just dependent on cultivation base or talent. The majority of it is dependent on comprehension. If you can't even understand your life, you will only be a frog at the bottom of a well, isolated from the truth of the greater world. In the end, you'll never be able to reach the peak of the martial path, said Long Chen as he pulled her forward. After all, she was Xia Yunchong's little sister, and so he gave her a kind reminder. Clapping rang out. Xia Yuluo was still lost in the clouds, and the two of them had arrived in front of a little pavilion without even noticing it. They saw a white-robed man who appeared to be in his 30s standing in front of the pavilion, clapping lightly. Esteemed guest's comprehension is admirable. I hope you can do me the honor of tasting this lowly one's wine. You? You're inviting us to taste your wine? Is this real? Xia Yuluo ended up too excited and almost slipped again. If it weren't for Long Chen steadying her, she would have embarrassed herself. The man smiled slightly and elegantly said, "As long as you do not say any words of blasphemy toward the wine god, I would not dare to expel an honored guest again." Hearing this, Long Chen realized that Xia Yuluo had been kicked out last time by this man. By following the small path, the first place which visitors arrived at would be this pavilion. In other words, last time Xia Yuluo hadn't even drunk a single drop of wine before being kicked out. And once she had returned to the palace, she had been scolded. That had been extremely miserable for her, which was why she was so excited now. "I definitely won't. Definitely not. Okay, I just won't say anything at all," declared Xia Yuluo. "Please, come inside." The man smiled and gestured for them to come in. Long Chen cupped his fists toward him and they entered the small pavilion. There was merely a 10-meter space and a table inside. A wine jug and a few cups were arranged simply on the table. "Have a seat. This is the wine I made. Please have a taste." The middle-aged man took out a spotlessly white handkerchief and cleaned his hands carefully. He then took out 2 refined jade bowls. These bowls were amber-colored and extremely small, only a bit wider than an inch. He picked up a small wine jug only the size of a fist and lightly poured a very limited amount of liquid into the bowls. The bowls transformed, becoming a darker red color. A powerful fragrance filled the air, penetrating deep into their hearts. Xia Yuluo swallowed her saliva. The wine god palace's disciples all had their own specific wines, and they were not distributed outside. Only people invited into the wine god palace could taste them. Even the fine wine the Grand Xia imperial family drank, although it also came from the wine god palace, was different from these special wines that the individual disciples developed themselves. They were on completely different levels. "Please." The man gestured, and Xia Yuluo, who had long since started drooling, carefully raised the bowl with 2 hands and placed it on her lips. She took a slight sniff and sipped it lightly. She then swallowed it in 3 different proportions, completely finishing it. Long Chen smiled and raised his bowl, draining it in 1 gulp. He felt like a clear spring had poured into his stomach and instantly spread throughout his 4 limbs. It was cleansing his body, making him feel indescribably comfortable. At the same time, some ineffable energy washed his heart and soul. "What amazing wine! I've never tasted such good wine before," exclaimed Xia Yuluo with delight. "Many thanks for your praise. May I ask what about it is good?" asked the man. Xia Yuluo was immediately at a loss of words. She had very foundational wine tasting skills, but that was just part of the essential etiquette imparted on the members of the imperial family. When it came to actually judging the wine, she had no ability. She cursed herself for having a big mouth. Now she had no idea what to say. But she was very smart and she suddenly smiled. "My big brother is a grandmaster at appraising wine. He'll give you a satisfactory reply, so I won't embarrass myself." "I'm not granduncle anymore?" Why did it seem like the imperial family's seniority changed with her mood? "Big brother Long Chen, aren't you going to say anything?" Xia Yuluo nudged Long Chen upon seeing him just stare at her lifelessly. "All right, count yourself as smart. So you know how to con others, not bad. Your advancement is very fast. As long as you follow me, your skills will definitely grow with each passing minute. I'll have to get some tuition fees from Xia Yunchong." Seeing the man looking at him, Long Chen said, "This wine's good points are how you put your whole mind and soul into making it. You used your spiritual strength to extract the impurities, making this wine's purity reach the pinnacle. Furthermore, during the fermenting process, you blended your comprehension of the heavenly Daos into the wine with a special flame energy. It can be said that this wine has reached an almost flawless level. The wine's energy spreads throughout the body evenly. Then in the same way as how the water soars into the air when the tide crashes against the cliffside, the comprehension energy within the wine pours into the drinker's heart, giving them boundless benefits. So this truly is good wine." As Long Chen spoke frankly with assurance, Xia Yuluo was filled with shock. She had already been prepared to be kicked out with Long Chen. Who would have thought that Long Chen would really be able to make such a stunning evaluation? Each of his words was like a gem that could be pondered at length. When she thought about it carefully, the evaluation was really on point. That made her admiration of him rise. She had always thought he was nothing more than a coarse-mouthed fellow. Now, she was completely shocked by his comments. Most importantly, she saw that the man was also filled with shock. "Sir truly is amazing. You were able to state all my wine's characteristics," he praised. "No, it's just that I'm an alchemist, so I know a bit about appraising things. It's not much." Long Chen smiled. "You are proficient in the pill Dao?" asked the middle-aged man. "A bit." Long Chen smiled slightly. "Then could you give me some pointers about my wine?" he asked sincerely. Xia Yuluo looked wide-eyed at Long Chen. Now she was completely unable to understand him. "I wouldn't dare to say that I could give you pointers. However, this wine has one fatal weakness. It's fated to never reach the level of a true Dao," said Long Chen. Long Chen's words immediately caused Xia Yolua's expression to change. She looked toward the middle-aged man and, as expected, his expression had sunk. "May I ask how so? What fatal weakness does my wine possess?" The middle-aged man took a deep breath and forced himself to be calm. But Xia Yuluo could clearly hear a trace of anger in his voice. The Wine God Palace's disciples viewed their own wine as their most sacred possession. They definitely wouldn't allow anyone to blaspheme it. But Long Chen said it possessed a fatal weakness, and even worse, he said it would never reach the level that all these disciples strive to reach. That wasn't just an insult to the wine, it was an insult to the winemaker. Xia Yuluo nervously stood up, but Long Chen continued to sit there, a smile on his face. Just what I would expect from a disciple of the Wine God Palace. People with faith are truly different. No matter how angry you get, you are able to use the power of your faith to control your emotions. Long Chen gave him a thumbs up. The middle-aged didn't say anything. In truth, he was extremely angry, because Long Chen's last words had rattled his Dao heart. "In truth, I said this in order to test you. If you had really been unable to endure my words and directly kicked me out, then there would be no need for me to further explore the Wine God Palace," said Long Chen calmly. "From the moment I entered this room, I could tell that you are extremely meticulous. You refuse for there to be any blemishes or flaws. From the way you cleaned your hands, to when you took out the bowls, to when you poured the wine. Even the positions of the wine jug to the wine bowls must be perfect. When you finished pouring the wine, you placed the wine jug where it was exactly. So when I raised my bowl with one hand and gulped it down in one mouthful, your emotions clearly began to change." As Long Chen spoke, the middle-aged man's furious expression gradually faded to be replaced with dense shock. Even Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen with shock. He had actually seen such details? She hadn't noticed a single one of them. Long Chen continued, "Because my conduct is not in accordance with proper conduct in your eyes, you became uncomfortable. You are someone who pursues perfection. It is precisely because you pursue perfection that your path forward has been blocked. Your wine is a masterpiece that has gone through thousands of refinements. It is almost flawless. But have you not found that you are currently stuck in a bottleneck that you cannot break out of no matter what?" Yes. I've been stuck at this bottleneck for 7 years already, and I've been unable to advance an inch. I even once went out and wandered the land in search of an opportunity to break through, but I'm still stuck. Please enlighten me." The remaining anger on his face had long since vanished. At this time, the middle-aged man was staring at Long Chen with a pleading light in his eyes. Seeing this dumbfounded Xia Yuluo. She was almost unable to believe it. The always incredibly prideful disciple of the Wine God Palace could actually make such an expression? Her eyes had truly been opened to the world. "In truth, the Wine God bestowed you an opportunity to break through 1 year ago. Regretfully, you were unable to seize it," said Long Chen with a smile that was not quite a smile. "1 year ago? Are you talking about her?" The middle-aged man was filled with shock. Xia Yuluo was still dumbfounded. How had she become his opportunity to break through? Correct. 1 year ago, she came and said some things she shouldn't have said. You kicked her out, but in truth, she was your opportunity to advance, said Long Chen. Please point me onto the right path. The middle-aged man bowed deeply toward Long Chen. You're too courteous. I came to the Wine God Palace in order to sincerely pursue my learning. I was lacking manners, but you still didn't kick me out. Your magnanimity is admirable. Since that's the case, I will be direct. When the 17th princess came last time, she was your chance to advance because she is simply naive and immature. She had no schemes in her heart, and no matter her actions, she had no intention of blaspheming the Wine God Palace. At that time, if you would have been able to forgive her and not quibble with her, you would have broken through your bottleneck, said Long Chen. I'm still confused. Can Sir please explain it clearer? Asked the middle-aged man. Seeing as how there were no taxes for bragging, Long Chen solemnly said, Your wine Tao is also one of the heavenly Taos, and you strive to reach the highest realm in this Tao. But could it be you do not know that there is no such thing as perfection in this world? The sun and moon wax and wane, the flow of destiny ebbs and rises. Right and wrong, yin and yang, positive and negative. Even the Taos of the heavens are filled with irreparable shortcomings. When something reaches a peak in one aspect, it can only go in the opposite direction. A tree sometimes thrives and a tree sometimes withers. You always pursue perfection, which is innately a dead end. The heavenly Taos are in a perfect cycle that continuously rotates. Because there are flaws, there can be yin and yang complementing each other in constant movement. Ask yourself, if the sun and moon only waxed and never waned, if creatures were only born and never died, just how would this world work? The middle-aged man looked at Long Chen with shock, but he was still at a loss. You still don't understand? Long Chen continued. And so, there is no absolute right in this world, nor is there any perfection. Only when there are flaws can things change and have room for growth. Absolute perfection cannot exist, because absolute perfection only signifies destruction. The middle-aged man's lost expression gradually faded. His body suddenly became covered by a halo of light, and a strange fluctuation spread which caused Long Chen and Xia Yuluo to jump. It seemed this person was undergoing a moment of sudden enlightenment, instantly breaking through to some kind of realm. Disciple Luo Yen kowtows in thanks for your pointers. I will never forget your favor. The middle-aged man suddenly knelt on the ground toward Long Chen, and then he bowed to Xia Yuluo, saying, 17th princess, I formally apologize for my rudeness to you back then. Xia Yuluo was so frightened she was hiding behind Long Chen, not even daring to speak. In her memory, this person would always be that fierce person who had scolded and kicked her out of the Wine God Palace. But now he was bowing toward her, and she had no idea what to say. Since you've become enlightened, you'll definitely advance by leaps and bounds in the future. We won't disturb you for now. Long Chen stood. For your great favor, I should provide you my greatest hospitality. But I really must solidify my comprehension, so I truly cannot accompany you. This is the stock of what I've refined during these years. Please, you absolutely must accept it, or I wouldn't be able to rest my heart. The middle-aged man offered a spatial ring to Long Chen with both hands. I can't possibly accept. However, since you've been enlightened, the wine you make in the future will be the truly fine wine. I'll help you get rid of this stuff. Long Chen very shamelessly received the spatial ring. Stealthily taking a peek inside the spatial ring, he saw over 1,000 jugs of wine as big as a person, and there were also all kinds of different size jugs that were too numerous to be counted. But Long Chen's shamelessness had been tempered through a great deal of experience, and he didn't betray a look of shock. Many thanks. Long Chen took his spatial ring, but it was the middle-aged man who said his thanks to Long Chen. He sent the two of them out of his pavilion and then went directly into seclusion. The dumbfounded Xia Yuluo didn't even know how she left the pavilion. She only reacted once they were a ways away. Long Chen, you're amazing. Can you teach me all that knowledge in the future? Asked Xia Yuluo. How impudent. Call me granduncle, said Long Chen stiffly. You evil person, don't even think about it, raged Xia Yuluo. Hee, if you don't call me granduncle, I won't give you a gift. Long Chen raised his eyebrows a few times, waving the spatial ring in his hand. That was the gift from the middle-aged man. I won't surrender. Xia Yuluo was clearly moved by the spatial ring, but after a long moment of hesitation, she refused to submit. I'm just joking. Looking at her aggrieved expression, Long Chen felt bad teasing her. See, this spatial ring has a total of 10 large jugs and dozens of small jugs. Don't blame your uncle for bullying you. Since we're working together, we'll split it equally. Here's 1 jug for you, 1 for me, 1 for me, 1 for you. Long Chen found a secluded place and began dividing the wine. Now Long Chen didn't look like someone capable of preaching about the Tao. He was clearly a little swindler proudly counting his spoils. Heavens, there's this much? Seeing these huge jugs, Xia Yuluo clamped her hands over her mouth. This was actually just a small fraction of Long Chen's spoils. It wasn't even 1% of his total gains. Long Chen gave half to Xia Yuluo and solemnly said, "Put them away. You deserve them. Stealing is also a Tao, and conning is also a strategy. Your Uncle Long won't mistreat you," chortled Long Chen. Now it was Xia Yuluo's turn to feel bad. This wine was far too precious. This was that wine god palace disciple's personal wine. Even in the Grand Xia's imperial family, there wasn't a single drop available. "Thank you." Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen, slightly red in the face but absolutely delighted. If she used this wine when treating others, her prestige would definitely soar. "Long Chen, you really are amazing. You know so much about wine. And you're also an alchemist? How do you know so much at such a young age?" Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen admirably. "I'm not young. I'm an uncle figure. Now that I look back at the past, it seems so long ago." Long Chen sighed emotionally. Stop making the same joke. I was wrong, all right? Long Chen, teach me your abilities. When you were talking to that person, you really were very godlike, very handsome," said Xia Yuluo excitedly. "There wasn't any real ability. It's all just a con. I was only blindly guessing and got it right. Let's not waste time. We'll continue and see if there are any good places to get some more good wine," said Long Chen. Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen oddly. He looked like a completely different person than the refined Long Chen who had so perfectly described the wine's pros and cons. Now he looked like a swindler in the streets. "Foolish girl, what are you just standing there for? Hurry up. Time is wine." Long Chen had taken a few steps and saw that Xia Yuluo was still just dumbly staring at him. He grabbed her and continued onward. Green mountains spread far into the distance. The secluded path twisted through the land, and the greenery was thriving with life as it was nourished by a fine drizzle. There was no killing, no fighting, no sinister schemes. Walking along the small stone steps, Long Chen felt his heart relaxing. He quietly enjoyed this feeling. But Xia Yuluo was completely unable to sense this feeling. The environment she had grown up in was already peaceful without any danger. Xia Yuluo had yet to recover from her shock. But looking at how sloppy Long Chen looked as he chewed a stalk of grass and hummed a vulgar tune, she was finally sure that this was the true Long Chen. The previous Long Chen had definitely been possessed by the wine god. "Girl, come and pick a path." Long Chen smiled toward Xia Yuluo upon seeing 3 possible paths in front of them. "If you call me girl again, I'll get angry. My name is Yuluo." Being repeatedly called a girl by Long Chen made her feel like a small bum beetle. If Long Chen hadn't generously split half his wine with her, she would have already exploded. "All right, Yuluo. Come pick a path," Long Chen corrected himself. Jokes should be stopped before they went too far. However, he truly wished to be her uncle so that he could call the emperor of the Grand Xia big brother. "Why have me choose?" asked Xia Yuluo. "Because you are the envoy sent by the wine god. You are the fairy that will enlighten the wine god palace's disciples. So you choose." Long Chen smiled. Although he was just teasing her, Xia Yuluo was happy to be called a fairy. "It'd be strange if anyone believed you. But even if all you said was nonsense, thank you for winning back my face." Clearly, she was still very happy about how the wine god palace's disciple had bowed and apologized to her. "There's no need to thank me. We're working together, so we must be sincere and honest with each other. Pick a path, pushed Longchen. Then this one. Xia Yuluo pointed toward the central path. Longchen put on an act of deep ponderment, scratching his head and counting on his fingers. Good, we're walking the straight and narrow. To walk in the middle of the three great paths, Princess's directions can lead a person to the clouds and sky. Yes, this must be the path to get rich. Let's go. Xia Yuluo looked at Longchen chewing a piece of grass with a serious expression. They completely contradicted each other, and adding in his crazy words, Xia Yuluo bent over in laughter. Princess, why are you laughing? Are you questioning my abilities to peer through the heavens and see through fate? Said Longchen with a displeased expression. Please, stop teasing me. My stomach's starting to hurt from laughing. Your manner was pretty similar to those fellows from the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. Xia Yuluo was almost unable to breathe as she laughed. There was even some light sweat on the tip of her nose, like a peach blossom touched with dew. Your people have a relationship with the Heavenly Fate Pavilion? Longchen was caught off guard. No. But when the Grand Han's delegates come, some disciples from the Heavenly Fate Pavilion accompany them. They act very similar to what you just did, said Xia Yuluo. Do you often have dealings with the Grand Han? Asked Longchen. Not really. After all, the relationship between our two nations is a bit tense, so we don't have many interactions, said Xia Yuluo disappointedly. I just don't understand why my father has to have such a tense relationship with the Grand Han. The Grand Han's people are so nice, and there are so many touching romantic stories from there that can make me cry. Both the men and women are so dedicated and faithful to each other. Xia Yuluo's eyes became unfocused as she sank into her beautiful fantasies. Sometimes what you see is what people intentionally let you see. Sometimes what you hear is what people intentionally let you hear. If you want to understand a person or a nation, you can't just look at its exterior. That will cause your judgment to be gravely mistaken. Longchen shook his head. What Longchen hadn't expected was for Xia Yuluo to immediately get enraged by his words. You're just spouting nonsense. You're clearly jealous of them to say such bad words about them. He finally lost his patience. Ha, jealous? In this world, no one can make me jealous. Furthermore, I disdain saying bad words about someone. It was your big brother who told me to advise you. But why would I want to do such a stupid thing? I'm good at killing people, but advising others isn't my forte. You're 18 now? When I was 18, I had already grown indifferent to life and death as I fought for my brothers and sisters. As for you, you're a brainless, stubborn fool who would rather believe in your own wishful thinking than see the truth. Do you realize you have 2 eyes and 2 ears? But how much do they get used? The heavens gave you a head for you to use it. Pigs always have ears, but their ears are big so that they listen to others without using their minds. In the end, when they are about to be slaughtered, they will not hesitate to send themselves to their deaths when called, sneered Longchen. This girl had been completely brainwashed by the idiots of the Grand Han and could no longer see reason. If someone was really able to change her mind, it would be truly heaven-defying. Longchen was unable to do such a thing. This work was too enraging. He was full of regret over his decision to help Xia Yunchong. Otherwise, he wouldn't be stuck in such an irritating position. You're the pig, raged Xia Yuluo. I can't be bothered to say anything to you. If you can't be reasoned with, then don't come with me. Longchen snorted. He was sick of this girl. Their intelligence was not on the same level. I'm going to come with you and irritate you to the end of the earth. You're the pig. Xia Yuluo clamped onto Longchen's hand and pressed against his body. Longchen tried unsuccessfully several times to throw her off. Of course, Longchen wasn't using his real force. Although his cultivation base had been sealed, if he just used the power of his physical body, he would definitely be able to fling her off. But then she would be flung all the way back to the imperial palace. Seeing Xia Yuluo clenching her teeth and the tears in her eyes, Longchen's heart softened once more. Why am I quibbling with a child? Longchen couldn't help but shake his head. It seemed his magnanimity had degraded. Why did he have to take a child so seriously? Alright, let's calm down. This is the Wine God Palace, and if we act like this, we'll be kicked out. Then we really will have no face left. Long Chen softened his tone. No, you have to apologize. Who said you could be so fierce and scold me? Xia Yuluo refused to let go of Long Chen's arm, looking like she wouldn't let go even if she died. Fine, I was wrong, I shouldn't have been so fierce, I shouldn't have scolded you. Long Chen helplessly raised his hands in defeat, treating it like he was playing with a child. Xia Yuluo suddenly began to really cry. Hey, did you mix things up? I apologized. Why are you crying? Long Chen was speechless. Father, mother, brother, none of them scolded me so viciously, but you said I was an idiot and you said I was a pig. Xia Yuluo began to cry harder and harder. From a young age, Xia Yuluo had always been pampered due to her high talent, and she had rarely been chastised. Although Xia Yuluo was willful and obstinate, she was kind inside. She just had never been sternly disciplined. That was why Long Chen's scolding immediately caused such a reaction. She hadn't cried when he had been scolding her because of her anger, but as soon as he apologized, she wasn't able to endure it any longer. Hey, don't make a fuss. This isn't the place to cry, said Long Chen. I don't care. You bullied me, wailed Xia Yuluo. The Wine God Palace is a quiet place. Who is making a ruckus? Suddenly, a chiding voice rang out from ahead. Ah, it's a misunderstanding. This isn't a ruckus. My little sister was moved by the surroundings and decided to sing a song to express her reverence toward the Wine God Palace, called out Long Chen. The crying Xia Yuluo immediately chuckled upon hearing this. Her emotions quickly shifted to become embarrassed, and she hastily wiped away her tears. My little sister's singing is very good. But in her excitement, she ended up off-key, which is why her singing sounded like crying. Please don't take offense, continued Long Chen. Long Chen then pulled Xia Yuluo forward. Alright, don't make a fuss. It's time to get back to work. Turning around a corner, they saw a man standing in front of a small pavilion, coldly looking at them. He was a handsome man, tall with graceful facial features. However, his eyes were filled with sadness. Although he looked to be in his 20s, that grief in his eyes spoke of great experiences and time lived. Your song is quite sad, a song of the pain in the heart. Because of it, I'd like to invite the two esteemed guests to try my wine, said the man. Xia Yolua's expression became a bit unnatural upon hearing this evaluation. Everyone knew that she had been crying just now. But this person acted like he hadn't realized it. Please go ahead. The pavilion's interior decoration was almost identical to the previous one. Only the person had changed as well as the wine. There were 2 cups of clear wine that had already been poured. Yuluo, you should drink it first. This wine is very beneficial to you. Long Chen urged Xia Yuluo on, but he didn't reach for his own cup. Xia Yuluo carefully received her wine, and she once more drank it in 3 gulps. Her depressed mood was wiped away, and she couldn't help but smile as a feeling of joy welled up within her. How miraculous! It can actually allow me to forget all my troubles and clear my heart, exclaimed Xia Yuluo. Sir, are you not going to try it? I see that the pain in your heart is not any less than mine. This wine can suppress the gloominess crushing your heart. It's very beneficial to your cultivation. The winemaker looked at Long Chen. Xia Yuluo seemed to have heard the funniest joke. How could it be possible for Long Chen to feel pain in his heart? He was clearly a bad person with a wicked heart. If this place wasn't the Wine God Palace and they weren't facing a disciple, she would have already laughed. The 7 emotions and 6 desires of humanity are part of who we are. Pain, bitterness, they are all precious memories. Why suppress them? If you are trying to use your power to completely erase those feelings, isn't that a betrayal to your past? Hence, many thanks for your kindness, but I won't be having any. Long Chen shook his head and pulled Xia Yuluo away. Esteemed guest, please wait a moment. Your words of wisdom have greatly benefited me. Please, you must accept this small gift. That winemaker actually ran after them and took out a spatial ring. Your courtesy is admirable. But I don't deserve such an immense gift. Long Chen shook his head. You're too modest. The wisdom you've given me makes me feel shame. Back in the day, I was a martial cultivator. Falling into a trap, my Dao companion and I were besieged by multiple soul transformation experts, and she fell at that time. I managed to flee, and after bitterly training in some strange arts, I killed the ones who caused her death one by one. But my lover was still dead and my heart devil proliferated, driving me insane. Those days were incredibly bitter. Eventually, I had a fated encounter with the Wine God Palace, and by devoting myself to the Wine God, I managed to shed my heart devil. However, I still felt pain day and night as I missed her. I made wine in order to forget that pain. Your reminder just now was the flash of insight I needed. I was simply trapping myself in my mind, and now the sky has cleared. In the future, I will be able to shed my suffering and find peace. It's all thanks to your blessing, said the winemaker respectfully. Hearing this person's story, both Long Chen and Xia Yuluo were shocked. This disciple of the Wine God Palace had once been a soul transformation expert? This spatial ring contains some mundane items I gained before I fled to the Wine God Palace. I've thought about throwing it away a long time ago to sever this karma, but my heart was never able to release it. Now, giving it to you can count as lifting a weight off my shoulders. Originally, other than wine, disciples such as I shouldn't possess anything. The gifts we send are also just wine. So, in order to dispel any remnant thoughts, I must get rid of this ring. Please, don't refuse, said the winemaker sincerely. Oh, it's not wine. Why didn't you say so earlier? Long Chen thought that the winemaker was giving him the self-brewed wine, which he didn't need. But since the winemaker was sending him the treasures he had gained in the cultivation world, Long Chen naturally wouldn't refuse. Then many thanks. Long Chen received the spatial ring. I won't hold you up from your stroll. If you have time in the future, please come visit me again. When we have time, we'll definitely come to disturb you and try out your fine wine, said Long Chen. Once they were gone from the small pavilion, Long Chen's divine appearance vanished. He took out the spatial ring and took a look. I've struck gold. Long Chen jumped in shock. This winemaker had definitely been a big figure in the past. This spatial ring had dozens of king items, as well as various medicinal pills, cultivation techniques, and secret arts. Most importantly, he saw a huge mountain of yuan spirit stones. That was what excited him the most. Long Chen, what's inside the spatial ring? Asked Xia Yuluo curiously. Long Chen directly handed it to her so she could see for herself. But she merely glanced inside and disappointedly said, I thought there was going to be some treasure? Are these things useful? Long Chen rolled his eyes speechlessly. Why do I feel like you're someone who's never been hungry and don't know what it feels like? Perhaps a genius like you who has never been lacking cultivation resources will never understand the vexation of poor people like me. Do you know that each increase in resources for people with no background requires risking their lives? Why would you risk your life? Aren't you doing fine right now? Asked Xia Yuluo. Long Chen gave up explaining it to her. Looking carefully in the spatial ring, he saw that there were many items inside. But now wasn't the time to take stock of them. The two of them continued forward and quickly arrived at another pavilion. This pavilion's doors were closed, and no one came out to invite them. That was very normal. The Wine God Palace's disciples spent most of their time making wine as their cultivation. They only occasionally waited outside their pavilions waiting for fated people to come and judge their wine. After walking past 3 pavilions, they encountered a female disciple of the Wine God Palace. This time, Xia Yuluo took the initiative to greet her. This woman seemed to be very happy to have someone come and judge her wine, and she warmly invited the two of them in. However, when Xia Yuluo was asked to judge her wine, she could only say that it was a good wine. As for what aspect of it was good exactly, she was unable to express it. Fortunately, there was a grand swindler like Long Chen who was proficient in the pill Dao. In truth, there were many similar parts to winemaking and refining pills. No matter what kind of wine he encountered, he was able to say a few specific points about the winemaking process. Other than that, he had an incredibly sharp spiritual perception from the 9-star Hegemon body art. He could clearly sense the realm contained within the wine and its effects. He would make a few accurate comments, as well as a few harsh comments. Whatever flaws were contained in their wine, he would describe them clearly in just a few sentences, delighting these disciples. It had to be known that the wine god palace's cultivation was a kind of mental realm, and winemaking was their only method of cultivating. The wine god palace's disciples weren't afraid of others being frank and criticizing their wine. What they were afraid of was that others wouldn't be able to say anything specific about their wine, wasting it. As long as a person was able to accurately judge their wine, no matter how harsh their words were, they would be delighted. They continued through dozens of the wine god palace's disciples. Xia Yuluo bore witness to Long Chen's masterful abilities. Each one of the wine god palace's disciples had unique styles of wine, and their characters were all extremely different. Some were refined and scholarly, some were sloppy like beggars. Some were like fierce butchers, while some were like secluded hermits. To sum it up, there were all kinds and sorts. As for Long Chen, he was able to recite poetry back to the scholar, he could discuss life with the beggar, he could play a coarse finger-guessing game with the butcher, and he could speak about Buddhist allegories with the hermit. No matter who it was, he would be able to get them to give him their wine. The thing that shocked Xia Yuluo the most was when Long Chen drank wine with the butcher. In the end, they drank so much that they were cursing coarsely, their spit flying everywhere. And in the end, the butcher gave Long Chen all of his best wine. It wasn't just the butcher. All those whose wine Long Chen drank, whether they were man or woman, old or young, were plundered by Long Chen. What made Xia Yuluo want to prostrate herself toward Long Chen was that he didn't even need to open his mouth and ask for their wine. They would take the initiative to give it to him, as if not doing so would make them ashamed for a lifetime. As for Long Chen, he would always make a tactful refusal at first, but in the end, when the other side was about to get angry, he would reluctantly accept their gifts. This pattern made Xia Yuluo want to beat him. After a long stroll, Xia Yuluo had also gained a large pile of benefits. But she didn't know that what she had obtained was not even a sliver of what Long Chen had received. These people gave Long Chen spatial rings filled with wine. After speaking with Long Chen, they felt like the clouds had parted. It was like they had transcended. At that time, Long Chen would subtly remind them that they had entered a new era and they should abandon all their old achievements. That was the only way to give them the courage to advance without looking back. It was unknown if those people really had transcended, but Long Chen definitely had. His primal chaos space was now filled with a mountain of wine jugs. Each time he obtained a spatial ring, he would use the primal chaos space to pull the wine jugs in and leave a tiny amount. Long Chen was truly immoral. He would then split that tiny amount with Xia Yuluo evenly. Xia Yuluo didn't even suspect him. Seeing Long Chen split his spoils evenly with her made her feel full of gratitude toward him, and she even forgot about all her previous displeasure. When the sky darkened, Long Chen and Xia Yuluo left, completely satisfied. Xia Yuluo didn't even cause any fuss. She was smiling brightly, saying that when she got back, she would give her father and mother a pleasant surprise. Even in the imperial family, if they wanted to drink this kind of wine, they had to personally go to the wine god palace. Furthermore, the disciples' characters were odd, and they refused to sell their wine even to the emperor. On the way back, Xia Yuluo held Long Chen's arm happily, almost making Long Chen feel flattered. When this girl wasn't being foolish, she was quite charming. Only once they left the wine god palace did Xia Yuluo let go of Long Chen's arm and return to the palace with the guards. Those guards were surprised to see the two of them smiling so brightly. When they had entered, they had appeared hostile to each other, just shy of actually fighting. The guards looked at each other silently. It seemed that whatever wine those two had drunk was definitely good wine. It was no wonder the Grand Xia's people always said they couldn't be lacking wine when trying to make relations. Long Chen, I really admire you. You know far more than my imperial tutor. Looking at the hundreds of jugs of wine in her spatial ring, a worshipful expression appeared on Xia Yuluo's face. She could not be more excited. Any of these jugs of wine was enough to stun people. Right now, She was impatient to start showing them off. Hee hee, if you muddle along with me, I guarantee you'll have enough to drink for a lifetime. Being worshipped by a grand princess made Long Chun feel very refreshed inside. Alright, then the next time you go, remember to bring me along. I won't accompany you to my brother's place. I'm going home. Xia Yuluo pulled a cute face and then vanished like a wisp of smoke. How disloyal. But I suppose she hasn't experienced the world yet. If I asked her to hold back showing off her wine, she'd probably explode. Long Chun followed the guards back to Xia Yunchong's residence. Although it was also part of the imperial palace, it was heavily guarded with countless formations. Without someone leading the way, he would constantly have to go through checkpoints. Brother Long, how were your gains today? Xia Yunchong had long since been waiting for him. As soon as he sensed him, he rushed over to meet him. I made plentiful gains. Long Chun gave Xia Yunchong a gesture of victory. He had truly gained much today. Yuluo has started to form a favorable opinion of you? Xia Yunchong was delighted. Long Chen was struck dumb. Looking at Xia Yunchong's delighted expression, Long Chen suddenly realized he had misunderstood. The gains the two of them were talking about were not quite the same. He had been so excited over his gains today that he had completely forgotten about the mission Xia Yunchong had entrusted him. He awkwardly said, I suppose it can count as taking one step in that direction. That's fine, that's good. We can't rush this. That girl is extremely defensive. Right now, I don't even dare to mention anything about the Grand Han around her or she explodes. Since you've only just met her, you should first gain her trust and temporarily not raise any sensitive topics. We don't want her to also feel defensive toward you, sighed Xia Yunchong. Long Chun bitterly smiled inside. She had already started forming defenses around her. And she hadn't exploded just once today. Come, Brother Xia, I gained countless fine wines today. Have a taste. Long Chun took out jug after jug of wines marked with special symbols in front of Xia Yunchong's stunned gaze. Seeing those special marks, his eyes almost popped out. Xia Yunchong was struck dumb as Long Chun took out jug after jug of wine marked with special symbols. Each wine made by the Wine God Palace's disciples represented their life and experience. They each contained a different realm and comprehension, and every aspect of their taste was filled with profundities. Therefore, drinking them was not simply drinking wine. This was a way of communicating with the heavenly Daos. Now, there were dozens of small wine jugs placed before Xia Yunchong and Long Chun. The two of them carefully savored them and began to discuss the insights within the wine. Xia Yunchong was incredibly excited. Sampling and comprehending another person's life from the viewpoint of a spectator allowed him to get closer to the heavenly Daos. What wine is this? How can it be so hot and fiery? When he tasted the final wine, Xia Yunchong almost spat it out. He hastily covered his mouth, filled with shock. The wine was like lava pouring down his throat. A terrifying energy spread through him, making him feel like he was about to ignite. Savor it properly, chortled Long Chun. Back then, he had also been like this, almost causing a certain fierce-looking fellow to laugh at him. Xia Yunchong managed to swallow it. When the wine reached his stomach, it immediately felt like millions of tiny blades were stabbing through his body. But very quickly, the energy of the wine scattered through his meridians. When it reached the ends of his meridians, another burst of pain erupted inside him. He felt like his meridians would explode. It was as though a runner saw a mountain blocking their way and decided to charge right through it. But as a result, the mountain didn't collapse and the energy rebounded even fiercer. First the energy had overflowed and spread through his body, and now it was gathering once more. Not good. Xia Yunchong's expression changed. The wine energy was crashing toward his dantian wildly. His aura was exploding out of control. If he allowed that energy to explode, then his residence would be blown apart. Fortunately, Xia Yunchong had a powerful cultivation base and he forcibly restrained his aura. But rumbling sounds came from his body as though volcanoes were exploding within him. It lasted for several breaths before slowly stopping. Xia Yuncheng was filled with shock. What terrifying energy, what great comprehension, and what a domineering will. I was the same as you, Brother Xia. I almost embarrassed myself. That fierce-looking fatty really has some skill. Long Chen nodded. This wine had been made by the butcher. A fierce-looking fatty? Are you talking about the fierce young butcher, Tu Qiansheng? Cried Xia Yuncheng with shock. I don't know. But he was surnamed Tuesday. He told me to call him Fatty too, said Long Chen. From the start he had felt like that butcher's origins were as big as his stomach. Now seeing Xia Yuncheng's shocked expression, he supposed his guess had been right. Brother Long, let me tell you about him. 3,500 years ago, with just his own power, he annihilated one of the ancient races. In just a single night, he killed hundreds of soul transformation ancient race experts, and even their race leader was killed. That race leader was in existence on the same level as your Xian Tian Dao Sect's Xian Master. His name of the fierce young butcher came from that time. Having one of their ancient races annihilated infuriated the ancient race alliance. They immediately issued a kill order on him, and all the ancient race's experts moved out to kill him. Encircled by them, Tu Qiansheng fled, almost dying several times. He was heavily injured, but he still managed to escape. After recovering, he then crazily attacked the ancient races once more, annihilating 7 of their races. Those races had all participated in the hunt for him. As a result, the ancient race alliance was once more infuriated, and they moved out in huge numbers to kill him. But Tu Qiansheng had grown smarter, and he vanished, not giving them any chance to surround him again. As he fled, he also launched counterattacks. In 3 years, the ancient races lost 3 experts on the level of their race leaders and hundreds of soul transformation experts. In the end, Tu Qiansheng had killed too many of the ancient race experts. Hence, someone had gone to Heavenly Fate Island to get the information about Tu Qiansheng's whereabouts. Just as the experts of the ancient races were about to kill Tu Qiansheng, the Wine God Palace's people appeared and saved him. From then on, Tu Qiansheng became a disciple of the Wine God Palace. Xia Yuncheng respectfully and worshipfully told Long Chen about Tu Qiansheng's history. The ancient races were really willing to swallow their anger and let the Wine God Palace take him away? Long Chen couldn't believe it. The real question is, would the ancient races dare to try to stop them? The Wine God Palace has a true god's inheritance. Brother Long, don't look down on the Wine God Palace's disciples because they only make wine and you can't see their cultivation bases. The majority of those people were all stunning experts of their time, people who had shaken their era. That is why they all have their own different insights toward life, and the wine they make is unique to themselves. Others are all groping around within the heavenly Daos, while they have already reached another realm. The Wine God Palace's power is such that not just anyone can provoke them. Do you know how powerful Pill Valley is? When the Wine God Palace kicked them out back then, they didn't even dare to let out a fart. If even Pill Valley didn't dare to go against them, what qualifications does the Ancient Race Alliance have to challenge the Wine God Palace? They are just some descendants who have been abandoned by the Xian beasts. Furthermore, the Ancient Race Alliance never liked the human race. They even refuse to admit they are the human race's descendants. They only say they are the Xian beasts' descendants, and yet the Xian beasts don't want them. I digress. Let's continue speaking of the Wine God Palace. The Wine God Palace's disciples have already abandoned the martial path in pursuit of the Wine Dao. They abandon suffering and obtain happiness. What they seek is their own chance to become an immortal or a god. But that doesn't represent that they don't have any martial might. As long as others don't provoke them, they won't do anything. Even if someone offends them, they'll normally just expel that person. If no one blasphemes the Wine God Palace's disciples are forbidden from killing, explained Xia Yuncheng. Long Chen had an urge to slap himself. It seemed he had gone a bit too far this time. Each one of them was a big figure, and he had actually bragged to them about his wine judging skills and swindled them of their wine. Thinking of that, he began to sweat. This time, he really had been stupid. Those people had to have all gone through their own unique experiences, or they wouldn't have been able to comprehend their own Daos. In truth, Long Chen didn't realize that it was precisely because he hadn't taken their status seriously that they had welcomed him. In their eyes, the wine Dao was everything. They no longer cared about the martial path or their old accomplishments on it. If Long Chen had instead revered them because of their status and cultivation base, they would have had a bad reaction to him. Furthermore, by using his pill-sovereign memories and his senses from the 9-star Hegemon body art, his bragging and big words had ended up allowing them to find their weaknesses. That was why they had been so generous as to give all their fine wine to him. When Tu Qianshang was chased down, he was only at the soul transformation realm. He fought across realms to kill life-star experts. That shook practically all the central planes. His wine is his Dao, fiery and fierce, domineering to the peak. It is filled with a will to advance forward obstinately. I cultivate the undefeatable Dao, so this wine is extremely beneficial to me. Brother Long, this jug of wine, can you leave it for me to comprehend? Xia Yunchong thickened his face, but he still felt a burning sensation on it as he asked this. His face was completely red. His brother had invited him to drink wine, and now he wanted him to not drink it and leave it to him. That was a bit shameless. Long Chen didn't walk the undefeatable Dao, so drinking it might be addicting, but it was wasteful. If the wine was given to Xia Yunchong, it would allow him to walk further on the undefeatable Dao, making his aura even fiercer and more powerful. Hee, Brother Xia, don't worry. Just drink it. It is nothing. Even your little sister has 5 jugs of this wine dash. Long Chen smiled. What? That's a complete waste. I'm going to get it right now. Xia Yunchong immediately shot up. Long Chen hastily grabbed him and said, Don't. I gave that wine to her, so how can I take it back? There's plenty of wine here. Let alone drinking it all, you wouldn't be able to use it all up even if you used it for bathing. Long Chen took out 10 wine barrels the size of a person. All of them were the special wine made by the fierce young butcher, Tu Qiansheng. This wine was even better than what they had just drunk. What we drank just now, to use the words of Fatty Tu, is used for nothing more than rinsing our mouths. This is the true wine. Long Chen opened a bucket and poured out 2 bowls of wine in front of Xia Yunchong's shocked gaze. When the wine entered the bowl, it began to emit blue flames. Space twisted slightly around it. The wine was roiling within the bowl. Come, try some. Long Chen raised his wine bowl. The two of them touched their bowls and then drank the wine in one gulp. Long Chen had drunk it before, so he had long since been prepared. But Xia Yunchong, despite also having prepared himself, had still underestimated this wine. The clothing around his forearms and calves exploded, and blood began to spurt out of his arms and feet. At the same time, all his hair stood on end. Long Chen nodded in praise upon seeing this. Xia Yunchong was truly worthy of being someone who walked the undefeatable Dao. He had managed to bear that terrifying impact. When Long Chen had drunk this wine, if it hadn't been for Tu Qianshang's interference, he would have caused the pavilion they had been in to explode. But Xia Yunchong was able to slowly release the immense energy through his extremities to cushion it. This meant his control over energy was even better than Long Chen's. What a domineering will! He is definitely worthy of being called the fierce young butcher. Brother Long, I have to go into seclusion to digest these insights, said Xia Yunchong. You can take all of this. I still have more. Long Chen gave all the wine he had taken out to Xia Yunchong, delighting him. Originally, he had been a bit worried about not having enough wine to comprehend the profundities within it, but now he had more than enough. Xia Yunchong said his seclusion would probably last a few days. He asked what plans Long Chen had, and whether or not he was going to accompany Xia Yuluo. If Long Chen wanted, Xia Yunchong could arrange some leisurely activities for them. But Long Chen said he didn't have any time and also went into seclusion. This wine he had worked hard to swindle out of them wasn't used just to satisfy his stomach. A drop of medicinal elixir merged with a ball of wine and was instantly ignited. A terrifying burst of energy exploded. That fierce young butcher's wine really is crazy. Once I added some medicinal energy, what it becomes can't even be called medicinal wine, it's poison wine. If someone really drank this, they would undoubtedly die. Long Chen looked in shock at the raging ball of liquid that was floating in the air and releasing fierce fluctuations. It had taken him many tests to reach this point of successfully merging the medicinal elixir with this fierce wine. He extracted a drop and placed it on his tongue. He immediately felt like a bomb had exploded in his mouth. His ears, nose, and mouth all began to emit smoke, and tears streamed down his face. That wasn't from emotion. The medicinal effect has increased by almost 100 times. This isn't just cooperating, it's a metamorphosis. With such a terrifying medicinal effect, its side effects are probably huge. Fine, I'll try someone else's wine. Long Chen gave up on using the wine made by Tu Qiansheng. His wine was too domineering and was not suitable to be refined into medicinal wine. Long Chen chose a wine made by a female disciple. Her wine focused on nourishing the soul, like a spring rain washing over the world, a realm of returning vitality to a withered world. She had previously been a wood cultivator, and her wine contained her comprehension of life. Long Chen tried combining dozens of soul-nourishing medicinal pills with it. This was a very complicated process. When trying to merge medicinal pills with wine, the proportion, the control, the sequence, etc. could all affect the final result. Even if the medicine managed to merge with the wine, the medicinal wine's effect might not be stable enough. It would still need to go through repeated tests and experiments to maximize its effect. Despite his skill in medicine and despite being able to figure out everything about the wine's composition, merging them together was still incredibly difficult. It had to be known that when Pill Valley was cooperating with the Wine God Palace back then, it took them thousands of years to create just over 10 medicinal wines. From this result, it could be seen just how difficult it was to merge two different arts. However, Long Chen wasn't directly refining medicinal wine, but having the wine work together with his medicinal pills. It was a bit simpler. Instead of creating a whole new painting, he was taking a painting and adding a few things to make it even more beautiful. But even though he was just searching for a way to have them work together, the concoction would have several times their effects, and the maximum effect he could achieve was 10 times. After all, this kind of process couldn't match refining medicinal wine from scratch. This kind of cooperative medicinal wine would have huge side effects once the medicinal effect multiplied by over 10 times. Long Chen didn't have the time to research those side effects, so he could only give up on those abnormal medicinal wines. He spent 3 whole days creating 7 types of medicinal wines. 5 of them could be used now, while 2 of them needed more observation time. Of these 5, there were 2 that satisfied him the most. One was something he called the spirit-nourishing soul-raising wine. Its nourishing effect on the soul was extremely powerful. The other one was called the muscle-strengthening bone-hardening wine. The wine had come from a body cultivator disciple in the Wine God Palace, and Long Chen managed to strengthen its effect even more with medicinal pills. These 2 wines were both 10 times more effective than their predecessors and also very beneficial to him. Not only were they more effective than pills, but they also tasted good. To tell the truth, after years of eating pills, Long Chen had grown completely sick of them. Now that he could change the horrible taste, he felt more blessed than ever. Because researching more medicinal wine would take too long, Long Chen moved on. He opened the spatial ring the expert from the Wine God Palace had given him. An arm bracer king item. I'll take this. A golden arm bracer appeared in Long Chen's hand. Ancient runic lines were carved into it, and it was as heavy as a mountain. This was definitely something good for Long Chen. With this arm bracer, he could block the attack of a king item with his arm instead of using his saber. Sabers focused more on offense than defense, so switching to defense placed him in a passive position. Damn, even these 2 fur boots are king items? 2 fur boots appeared in his hands. On the outside, they didn't even look like king items, but there were countless runes inside. Even the soles had a formation supporting them. Alright, hopefully, the previous owner didn't have foot fungus. Long Chen took off his boots and put them on. But he had only just put them on when their runes lit up. They had originally been a bit too big, but they slowly shrank to perfectly fit him. He kicked the ground and a fierce gale erupted. As Long Chen poured in his spiritual yuan, the boots began to shine and space started to distort. He hastily pulled back his spiritual yuan. So this isn't a Weapon King item, but as long as I have enough spiritual yuan, I can basically teleport. Long Chen was shocked by this ability. This was his first time wearing equipment on the king item level. Now he found that not all king items needed a jade core to activate. The boots were on his feet, while his arm bracer was covered by his sleeve. No one would be able to tell what they were from the outside, and he also found that they didn't affect his movements. He was delighted and hastily looked at the rest of the king items. However, he didn't find anything else that suited him. The majority of these king items were weapons as well as some sets of armor. Long Chen didn't like heavy armor because their powerful defense sacrificed agility. He didn't like that way of fighting. Heavy armor was really only suitable for group battles, especially those in the vanguard. But it wasn't suitable for fighting on his own. Looking at the other treasures, he saw quite a few medicinal pills. But he wasn't interested in those. He also found quite a few secret tomes. They ranged from introductory battle skills to profound magical arts. Many of these arts were ones that built on top of each other to grow stronger. Long Chen couldn't help but sigh inside. No wonder that person had said he hadn't been willing to throw this away even after all these years. He had probably once had a dream of forming his own sect to leave behind his inheritance. Oh, what's this? Long Chen suddenly took out an ancient beast hide. It was dried up with age. The beast hide depicted a map, and there were two circular areas that were like the eyes of a skull. Seeing that, he suddenly found that the more he looked at this beast hide, the more he felt it looked like a human skull. At the space where the eyebrows met, there was a small mark. It was a very strange mark. It wasn't an immortal character, and he wasn't able to understand what it meant. This thing's probably incredibly old. Even the power of the beast hide is so great. However, just what is this map for? Probably only he knows, but now that he's given me this spatial ring, it means he wants to sever all his ties to it. I can't ask him. I'll just put it aside. If it's to be mine, it can't run away, and if it's not to be mine, then I wouldn't even be able to find it. There's no need to waste time thinking over it. Long Chen shook his head and put the map away. Now for what I really wanted, the Yuan Spirit Stones. Long Chen directly moved all the Yuan Spirit Stones in the spatial ring into his primal chaos space. Taking a rough estimate, he guessed there were around 1,200,000,000 Yuan Spirit Stones. He knew that these Yuan Spirit Stones were not just that person's. They were the result of him destroying several sects when he had been taking vengeance for his loved one's death. Looking at these Yuan Spirit Stones, Long Chen couldn't help but feel that the Xiantian Dao sect really had declined. One of the three great sects of the heavens had ended up so poor that this one person had more Yuan Spirit Stones than the entire Xiantian Dao sect. It really was as the Xian Master had said. If the Xiantian Dao sect continued to endure as they had been, they wouldn't have been able to do so for much longer. Long Chen had Hualong and Lei Long devour these Yuan Spirit Stones, and then he began extracting the Yuan spiritual energy. His 108,000 immortal platforms began to rapidly revolve, crazily absorbing that energy. Runes appeared on top of them one by one. 2 days later, his immortal platforms shook and grew another level. He had reached the 4th heaven stage of foundation forging. His immortal platforms were different from other people's. Each layer of their platforms would be smaller than the last. But Long Chen's layers were the same size, making his immortal platforms cylinders. At the center was the image of a flower with 13 petals. When he reached the 4th heaven stage, his immortal platforms trembled fiercely and then compressed. After 1 day, they had shrunk to a slightly smaller size. But the compressed immortal platforms were more solid, and as they revolved, a faint light came from them. At the same time, Long Chen felt each one of his immortal platforms had strengthened to the point that they were now several times stronger than when he had been at the 3rd heaven stage. This didn't delight him. As his immortal platforms strengthened, so did his physical body. However, he found that the power of his physical body was not quite able to match the power of his immortal platforms now that they had grown so much stronger. The problem lay in the fifth star. Without condensing the fifth star, his physical body wouldn't even be able to endure the power of the 9-star Hegemon body art. Now that he had reached the fourth heaven stage, he had stepped into the mid-foundation forging realm. Right now, his physical body was still strong enough to keep up with his immortal platforms. But what about the 5th, 6th, and 7th heaven stages? And then there was the 10th heaven stage and beyond. According to his experience, his body would go through heaven-toppling changes upon reaching that level. If he tried to use his immortal platforms at that time, wouldn't he just blow himself up? I can't continue like this. If the 5th star refuses to appear, then I need to think of some other way to strengthen my physical body. But the Azure Dragon reverse scale is way too strong. With my current power, let alone subduing, just broaching its outer defenses would be impossible. What am I supposed to do? Long Chen had mixed feelings now. As he was racking his brain for ways to strengthen his physical body, Xia Yuluo came over. Long Chen, I've been waiting for you for 2 days. If you still didn't come out, I'd have charged in. Long Chen had only just left his seclusion room when he saw the impatient Xia Yuluo outside. Aren't I busy bitterly cultivating so that I can reach 17th princess's height as soon as possible? What, do you need me for something? Don't tell me that you used up all your wine. Don't even think about getting any from me, warned Long Chen suddenly. Am I that kind of person? Furthermore, my wine is still all with me. I only gave a bit to my father and mother to taste. The rest, others can only look at them without tasting, said Xia Yuluo. Good. Long Chen sighed with relief, causing Xia Yuluo to stamp her feet in anger. From your miserly appearance, I'd say drinking your wine is like drinking your blood. Is it worth it to act so worried? Xia Yuluo looked at Long Chen disdainfully. If I'm so miserly, do you think I'd have given you a portion of my wine? Demanded Long Chen. Fine, I won't argue with you. I almost ended up forgetting my imperial father wants to see you, said Xia Yuluo. Why does Big Brother want to see me? Asked Long Chen. Xia Yuluo glared at him and strictly warned, my imperial father is a very harsh person. If you dare to say such a thing in front of him, he might kill you right there and then. You won't even have a place to cry. Really, he's that vicious? He'd kill someone for telling a joke? Long Chen acted shocked. My imperial father is the most merciless person I know. He even killed 2 of his sons. Do you think he'd care about an outsider's life? A somewhat afraid and disgusted expression appeared in Xia Yuluo's eyes when she spoke about her father. Long Chen jumped. An emperor would really be so vicious as to kill his sons? I don't believe you. What's not to believe? He tossed a few teenagers out in the world for tempering, and they returned to the Yellow Springs. Although he didn't personally kill them, what's the difference? Snorted Xia Yuluo. Long Chen said, there are many things you don't understand. All people care about their children. While you lost 2 brothers, have you ever thought that your father also lost 2 sons? He feels even worse than you. It is this mercilessness of his that allows you to live a carefree life. If you want to hate someone, you should hate the enemies that threaten the Grand Xia at all times. I don't care about your grand reasonings. Hurry up and come along. Xia Yuluo set off, leading Long Chen. On the way, all the guards that saw them bowed. It wasn't long before they arrived in front of a palace hall. Xia Yuluo looked at it and said, reporting to my imperial father, Long Chen has arrived. Come in. The voice was flat and deep, like a powerful drum. It inspired reverence. Xia Yuluo slowly retreated. Before leaving, she gave Long Chen a throat-cutting gesture and put on a dead face. Long Chen's heart warmed. She was warning him to be careful. Her father was temperamental, and if he wasn't careful, his head would be cut off. Her heart wasn't bad. The palace hall was extremely impressive and also sacred. In front of it were 2 huge stone lions that looked alive. They were like 2 guardian beasts staring at Long Chen, emitting their own terrifying pressure. Long Chen walked up the stone steps and entered the palace hall. But what he didn't expect was that the Grand Dragon throne, red carpet, chancellors, and the other royal items that should have been present within the core of the palace were nowhere to be found. The palace hall was extremely bare. There was simply a figure quietly sitting at the center of the room. The rest of the room was so spacious and empty that it made a person uneasy. Long Chen had only just stepped in when he saw a pair of eyes. In that instant, he felt himself become extremely minute, as if he was a speck of dust floating amongst the stars. "Long Chen greet Senior," said Long Chen respectfully. "Come and sit," said that person. "Yes." Long Chen obediently sat in front of him. Even with his unrestrained character, Long Chen didn't dare to do anything wanton in front of this person. He definitely didn't dare to call him Big Brother. To be able to maintain a calm heart within my domain is impressive. The man nodded. At this close distance, Long Chen saw that he appeared to be around 40 years old. His face was somewhat similar to Xia Yuncheng's. But this person was different from Xia Yuncheng in that his noble air had reached a pinnacle. A vague image of a dragon floated behind him, shocking Long Chen. "So you're even able to see the manifestation of the dragon vein. As expected, you're not so simple." The middle-aged man looked at Long Chen with some surprise. Then with even greater surprise, he exclaimed, "You have true dragon essence blood within you. Senior's vision is truly divine. All my possessions are easily seen through." Long Chen bitterly smiled. This was the person with the greatest authority within the Grand Xia. He was truly terrifying. I didn't see it, I sensed it. Within my Grand Xia, there is a condensed form of karmic luck protected by a dragon vein. That's why I could sense the dragon blood within your body. The middle-aged man frowned. "You should be careful. Your dragon blood isn't very high tier, but it's extremely pure. If the Xian beasts learn of it, it'll probably be very troublesome." "Many thanks for your warning, Senior. This junior understands," thanked Long Chen. When he had encountered Cloud's mother, she had also warned him to be careful of the Xian beasts. Now that even the Emperor of the Grand Xia would warn him, it seemed his true dragon essence blood really would cause big trouble in the future. "Calling me Senior is a bit too much. However, Big Brother is also not too suitable. My name is Yu Yang, so you can call me Uncle Yang," said the Grand Xia's Emperor, Xia Yang. Long Chen could only force a smile. It seemed his little joke was no secret to him. "Uncle Yang, please don't blame me. That was just a joke with you Luo." "It's fine. Young people should be less reserved, or they wouldn't be called youngsters. I called you over to inform you that the Four Nations Ancient Remnant is about to open. You should prepare yourself. When the time comes, you can go together with Chonger and the others." "The Four Nations Ancient Remnant?" asked Long Chen. "Yes. Chonger will tell you the details. Other than that, the delegation from the Grand Han will be arriving in 2 days, and you'll be in charge of receiving them," said Xia Yuyang. "Me? Receive them?" Long Chen felt like he had misheard. "Correct. I heard that in the Xiantian Dao sect, you received the heaven-suppressing magic sect's people very well. You were very enthusiastic and free with them, allowing them to return to their sect better off than when they left. That's why I feel like you're the best person for this task." Xia Yuyang looked at Long Chen with a smile that was not quite a smile. Long Chen instantly understood that Xia Yuyang had investigated him and knew about what had happened in the Xiantian Dao sect. His information source was truly amazing. However, this little one isn't. Long Chen didn't want to be the center of attention here. He would rather be a quiet, random passerby on the streets. "You've already called me uncle, so you are a member of the Grand Xia. I've already prepared the identity plate." Xia Yuyang gave him a jade plate. After receiving it, Long Chen saw that it read, "Grand Xia National Protector, Great General Long Chen." National Protector? Isn't that a bit too exaggerated? I don't have that much ability. Long Chen bitterly smiled. "I trust you have that ability. If my guess isn't wrong, at least half the reason for the Grand Han's delegation is due to you. If you want to endure, you can choose not to take this title. But no matter how I look at you, I don't think you're that kind of person. Rather than waiting until the conflict erupts, why not be more direct?" Skip the pretenses and get right to the fighting, said Xia Yang. Putting it like this, Long Chen did agree. Furthermore, wasn't being continuously provoked until he wanted to explode before retaliating just self-torture? It was better to give them a direct slap in the face. Alright, I know what to do. Uncle Yang, don't worry. I will definitely live up to your expectations. Long Chen laughed wickedly. He was most fond of being the fox that exploited the tiger's power. As for Yuluo, please do your best, sighed Xia Yuyang. Even if a ruler had to be emotionless, he wasn't able to sever his feelings for his children. I will do my best. Long Chen nodded. But inside, Long Chen was grumbling. If Xia Yuyang wanted him to go and fight, he wouldn't even frown. But when it came to emotions, he didn't have any assurance in being able to change that stubborn girl's mind. She was too stubborn and too brainwashed. He would only be able to take things step by step. Returning to Xia Yunchong's residence, when he learned of the Four Nations Ancient Remnant, he jumped in shock. The so-called Four Nations Ancient Remnant referred to a remnant of the immortal era. Legend said that it was left behind when a supreme expert ascended to become an immortal. This remnant was its own world. It was said it was very possible for it to contain the records of that supreme expert and their inheritance. However, this remnant was damaged during the Great Battle in the immortal era. Part of it broke, and it was squeezed into a spatial wall. When this spatial wall weakened, disciples at the Foundation Forging Realm and below could enter from the Martial Heaven continent. They could enter and search the remnant. However, the amount of time they had was very short. According to past experience, they would only have 7 days. Because a portion of the remnant had fractured off, if they were unable to leave within 7 days, the exit would close and they would never be able to leave. Xia Yunchong said that the supreme expert had left it behind when he ascended, and so quite a few treasures were waiting for destined people to find them. The Four Nations Ancient Remnant opened at random times without pattern. They could only constantly wait. But before the spatial wall weakened, it would release a few fluctuations in advance. That allowed them to calculate a rough estimate of when it would open. After patiently spending 3 days working on his medicinal wines, someone came over to tell Long Chen that the Grand Han's delegation was about to arrive. Long Chen stood in silver armor at the top of Grand Xia City's gates. Thousands of imperial guards were standing behind him with their armor shining brightly. The path to the gates had been perfectly cleaned, and following the etiquette of receiving a diplomatic delegation, they had an army quietly standing there. What's going on? They're still not here? It's been over an incense stick's worth of time since the scheduled time. Long Chen frowned. Reporting to the great general, the Grand Han's people are often late by up to 3 incense sticks worth of time, said one of the high-ranking officers. He was very familiar with the Grand Han's style. Ah, is that so? Then it's simple. Long Chen was enraged upon hearing this. He disliked people who didn't know how to be punctual. Did they think they could make him wait? That would be giving them far too much face. All right, brothers, we're taking the rest of the day off. Everyone go back and seal the city gates, ordered Long Chen. They thought they could be bigger posers than him? He directly ordered the city gates closed. Great General! The other high-ranking officers all jumped. Was he crazy? It's fine, I will take responsibility for any consequences. There are some people who just can't be indulged. Close the gates, declared Long Chen. The Grand Han's imperial carriage has arrived. Just at this moment, a snow-white horse emitting a powerful aura appeared. It pulled a grand carriage as it rushed toward the city gates. Great General, they've arrived, said one of the officers. So what? We're off duty. Close the gates. No one is allowed to open them, said Long Chen as he began taking off his armor. My Grand Han's imperial carriage has arrived. Why are the gates closed? Are you not going to come out and greet us? Amongst the hundreds of guards around the carriage, a man whose face was as big as a flat cake opened his mouth. Sorry, you've come late. We've already stopped working. If you want, you can go through the small gate to the side. Long Chen shrugged helplessly. At this time, he had already taken off his imperial armor and was in casual dress, indicating he wasn't on duty. You? How can my Grand Han's prince walk in through the gate for commoners? You are trying to humiliate us, roared that person. What's wrong with commoners? Can you not walk the same path as them? Well, they also eat food, drink water, and breathe air. Are you going to stop doing that as well? Tisich, do you have a problem with your head? You're the ones who arrived late, so who do you think is to blame? Let me make things clear to you. I'm already off duty, so either walk through the side door, or go back to wherever you came from. Long Chen didn't give them any chance to reply. He directly turned and left. Long Chen's departure dumbfounded the other guards and officials. It seemed this didn't conform with the Grand Xia's etiquette. To refuse its guests outside the door would affect the Grand Xia's image. But their leader had already left, and they didn't dare to go directly against his orders and open the gates on their own. They just stood there blankly. This Long Chen seems to be doing quite well in the Grand Xia. Within the carriage, an extraordinarily handsome man with pretty features stared at the city gates indifferently. This handsome man was one of the famed 3 monarchs of the Grand Han, Han Wenjun. He was also one of the Grand Han's imperial princes. He probably wants to obtain the Grand Xia's protection, which is why he's hiding inside, said an elder beside Han Wenjun. This elder was surprisingly the master of the Heavenly Fate Pavilion, Xian Jizi. After the Xian master's slap in the face, he hadn't been able to find any way to handle Long Chen. He had decided to follow Han Wenjun on his trip to the Grand Xia this time. His target was Long Chen. If Long Chen didn't die, he wouldn't be able to set his mind at ease. These days he was always extremely tense, afraid that Long Chen would reveal what he had done. Compared to Long Chen, Hua Xiu wasn't worth the panic. She had her large Hua family and had no choice but to consider her family's safety first. So she wouldn't dare to go against him. However, Long Chen was different. His parents in the eastern wasteland had vanished. His family was gone, and he was free to do whatever he wanted. Such people were the most frightening. It's unexpected that Long Chen actually managed to get his own official position in the Grand Xia. He's intentionally making things hard on us. He already killed one of the members of my Grand Han imperial family despite our warning, and now he even dares to humiliate us by stopping me in front of the city. This suicidal bastard deserves 1,000 deaths, snorted Han Wenjun. The 4 ancient nations always maintained a subtle balance, refusing to raise their weapons against each other. It truly was an excellent decision to hide here. Furthermore, it's not convenient for me to force things within Grand Xia City. I'll need to take my time planning how to handle him. Moreover, our main goal is to form a good relationship with the Wine God Palace this time, said Xian Jizi. The Heavenly Fate Pavilion had a grand position within the Grand Han, and Xian Jizi's status was almost on the same level as the Grand Han's emperor. So he also didn't need to have so many misgivings when speaking to Han Wenjun. Pavilion Master, what do you think we should do? Are we supposed to just accept being given the cold shoulder? Han Wenjun frowned slightly. Now it was a bit awkward. Xian Jizi said, Long Chen is just a scoundrel without any education or skills. Trying to reason with him is simply impossible. We definitely can't go through the side door or we'll be laughingstocks, so we should just retreat for now and send someone to tell them that we'll come again tomorrow. But we definitely can't arrive late, or Long Chen will be happy to close the gates on us once more. All right then, I'll let that idiot be pleased for now, said Han Wenjun icily as he looked at the tightly closed gates. Just other than that, be careful. I've hidden my cultivation base so that no one knows I've come. Make sure to be careful with your movements so that I don't get exposed. We don't want to end up ruining our true business, warned Xian Jizi solemnly. Don't worry, Pavilion Master. Disciple understands. Just like that, under the sight of countless citizens of the Grand Xia, Han Wenjun's carriage left with his large procession. Long Chen returned to the palace. He was in the midst of drinking with Xia Yunchong when Xia Yuluo furiously stamped in. Long Chen, why did you refuse Han Wenjun at the gates? Do you know how long I was waiting for? Raged Xia Yuluo. At this time, Xia Yuluo was dressed in thick imperial splendor. Her hair was tied in a high knot, and her face had been painted very elegantly, making her even more beautiful than normal. But at this time, Her beautiful face only contained anger as she shouted at Long Chen. Xia Yuncheng's expression sank. As soon as Han Wenjun was mentioned, he would get angry. Moreover, seeing Xia Yuluo had gone to such an extent to prepare for their enemy, his fury immediately soared. Sensing that Xia Yuncheng was about to explode, Long Chen hastily grabbed him. Anger was unable to solve problems. Instead, it would just make things worse. Yuluo, I wasn't doing this to make things hard on him. I was simply acting in accordance with my Grand Xia's etiquette system. If it had been up to me just to give you face, I wouldn't have minded waiting several days, let alone a few incense sticks worth of time. But this matter affected the relations between the two nations, so I had to carry out my official duty. I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me, so please don't blame me, said Long Chen. Oh, it's not because of me that you intentionally didn't let him in? Xia Yuluo was now a bit sorry. You're overthinking things. I have no enmity with him, so why would I target him? Furthermore, I also want to see what he looks like to have so many maidens infatuated with him. In truth, I'm a bit competitive, laughed Long Chen. Only now did Xia Yuluo's fury vanish. But thinking of how she had acted out just now, she was too embarrassed and slipped away. This girl is getting more and more overboard. Xia Yuncheng's expression was still dark. Brother Xia, you don't understand her romantic feelings. When a person likes another person, they'll become crazy and lose all their wits, said Long Chen helplessly. At this time, Long Chen received an imperial edict saying that the Grand Han's delegation would arrive tomorrow morning, and he would be in charge of receiving them. The next morning, Long Chen was once more standing at the top of the city gates. This time, Han Wenjun obediently came on time. It was still the same carriage and the same 100+ guards. When Han Wenjun walked out of his carriage, Long Chen saw his oval face, and despite feeling disdain for him, he had no choice but to admit he truly was beautiful. But he couldn't see any hint of manliness on his face. With 16 maidens waiting on him as he stepped off the carriage, Long Chen almost mistook him for a woman. I am the Grand Xia's national protector, Great General Long Chen. I represent the Grand Xia's imperial family and Grand Xia city's citizens in welcoming the Grand Han. Long Chen held a document in his hands at the top of the gates, and he began to read off of it. This was an etiquette that he didn't quite care about. In any case, he just said whatever was written on it. After going over the whole lengthy document, his mouth was starting to feel numb. Only then did he walk over to Han Wenjun. Both sides exchanged gifts and then entered the city. I've long since heard of your great name, Long Chen. I never expected to encounter you within the Grand Xia, said Han Wenjun as he followed Long Chen into the city. I've also heard of the 3 monarchs' names. Seeing you in person is the blessing of 3 lifetimes. Long Chen smiled as he spouted absolute nonsense. I heard that you're a core disciple of the Xiantian Dao sect. Why would you come all the way to the Grand Xia? Are you trying to move to a better position? Asked Han Wenjun with a smile. I knew you would want to play. Alright, let's play. It's hard to explain. Back then, I set off from the Xiantian Dao sect to defend the Eastern Sea. But as a result, my luck was bad, and I ended up being provoked by a tortoise. I killed it, but who would have thought that this would cause a huge calamity? Brother Wenjun, you might not believe me, but it was that tortoise that attacked me first. But after I killed it, I was filled with regret. That tortoise's strongest point was actually its shell. Its shell was extremely hard and capable of summoning an even bigger old tortoise. I was afraid the old tortoise would bite me, so I ran over to the Grand Xia. Fortunately, the Grand Xia kept me. Otherwise, it'd be very troublesome to handle all the little tortoises the old tortoise sends after me. Long Chen sighed helplessly, while Han Wenjun's expression sank. Tortoise equals bastard. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.